When Marcus Rivera stopped Lewis Hamilton at the VIP entrance of the Monaco Grand Prix, he thought his life was over. His hands shook as he asked the famous race car driver for extra identification. Marcus didn't recognize him. He was just following the rules, trying not to lose the job he desperately needed. But then a drunk fan rushed toward them, and Marcus did something that would change everything. He stepped between the fan and Lewis without thinking twice. He was just doing his job, protecting people, following protocol, even though he was terrified. What Marcus didn't know was that Lewis was watching him very carefully, studying him, wondering about him. The next morning, Marcus got suspended from his job, 2 weeks without pay. He went home to his tiny apartment where his 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, waited in her wheelchair. Sophia had cerebral palsy and needed expensive therapy to learn to walk. Therapy Marcus could no longer afford. Marcus thought he'd lost everything by doing his job correctly. He thought following the rules had destroyed his family's future. But then, at 7:30 the next morning, someone knocked on his apartment door. When Marcus opened it, he couldn't believe his eyes. Lewis Hamilton was standing in his hallway, and Lewis was carrying a folder that would change Marcus and Sophia's lives forever. But what was in that folder? Why did Lewis come back? And what did he do for the security guard who'd stopped him at the gate? Watch this whole video to find out the incredible true story of what happened next. Because what Lewis did wasn't just kind. It was life-changing, and the reason why he did it will shock you even more than what he did. But this is a story about promises, second chances, and how one moment can change everything. Stay until the end, because the truth behind Lewis's visit is something you'll never forget. Marcus Rivera's hands trembled as he gripped his clipboard. The morning sun blazed over Monaco, turning the Mediterranean into a sheet of silver fire. He'd been awake since 4:30, riding 3 different buses to reach the Circuit de Monaco before dawn. His security uniform was borrowed, 2 sizes too big, and the shoes pinched his feet with every step. "You got this," he whispered to himself, checking the VIP list for the 100th time. 3 weeks. That's how long Marcus had worked for elite security services. 3 weeks of proving himself, of showing up early, of never complaining. This was his first solo assignment at a major event, and he couldn't afford to mess it up. Not when Sophia's therapy bills sat unpaid on his kitchen counter. Not when their landlord had taped a final notice to their apartment door yesterday. The VIP entrance stood separate from the main gates, a roped-off area with red carpet and potted palm trees. Marcus had watched YouTube videos last night, trying to memorize the faces of famous drivers and team owners. But the names blurred together in his exhausted mind. Sebastian something, Charles something, Max something. His supervisor, Mr. DeGraff, had been clear during the 5 a.m. phone call. "The regular guard has food poisoning. You're covering. Check every credential, cross-reference every face. One mistake, Rivera, and you're done. Understand?" Marcus understood. He understood that done meant no job. No job meant no apartment. And no apartment meant Sophia would lose access to the therapy that was teaching her to walk. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up to the entrance at exactly 7:47 a.m. Marcus straightened his posture, trying to look professional despite the uniform that hung off his shoulders like a child playing dress-up. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, alone. No bodyguards, no entourage, no photographers. He wore a simple gray hoodie, the hood pulled up over his head. Dark sunglasses covered his eyes. Faded jeans, white sneakers that had seen better days. A worn backpack slung over one shoulder. The man didn't walk like the other VIPs Marcus had seen arrive in limousines and designer suits. He moved with easy confidence, but also with simplicity, like someone who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. "Good morning," the man said, his accent British but warm. He pulled a laminated VIP pass from his pocket and held it up. Marcus took the pass, studying it carefully. The photo was small, maybe half an inch square, and slightly blurry. The lighting was poor. The name read L. Hamilton, with a barcode and holographic seal. Marcus squinted at the photo, then at the man before him. The hoodie shadowed most of his face. The sunglasses hid his eyes. The photo could be this man, or it could be someone else. "Sir, I need to see additional identification," Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. He cleared his throat. "Just to verify." The man smiled, genuinely smiled, like he understood. "Of course, no problem." He reached for his back pocket, pulling out a leather wallet. But before he could open it, chaos erupted. "Hamilton! Lewis Hamilton!" A man's voice, slurred and too loud, shattered the morning calm. Marcus spun around. A large man in a Ferrari t-shirt stumbled toward them, his face red and sweaty. He clutched a racing program in one hand and a plastic cup that sloshed with beer in the other. At 7:47 in the morning. "I knew it was you!" the drunk fan shouted, lurching forward. "Sign my program! Sign it!" Marcus's training kicked in. He stepped directly between the drunk man and the VIP entrance, holding up his hand. "Sir, you need to step back," Marcus said firmly. His heart hammered, but his voice stayed steady. "This is a restricted area." "I just want an autograph." The man tried to push past Marcus. Marcus planted his feet, blocking the way. The drunk fan was bigger, heavier, but Marcus had spent 2 years working construction in Caracas. He knew how to hold his ground. "Sir, please return to the main entrance. If you don't leave now, I'll call security back up." The drunk man wavered, confusion crossing his face. Then he laughed, a wet, ugly sound. "Fine, whatever. Hamilton, you're the best." He stumbled away, nearly tripping over his own feet. Marcus turned back to the VIP entrance, breathing hard. His adrenaline surged, but the man in the gray hoodie was gone. Marcus's stomach dropped. He looked left, then right. The black Mercedes was pulling away. In the distance, he could see the gray hoodie moving toward the main entrance, the regular entrance where thousands of fans waited in long, winding lines. "No, no, no," Marcus whispered. "Rivera!" The voice cracked like a whip. Marcus turned to see Mr. de Graaf storming toward him, his face the color of a ripe tomato. Behind him, 2 other security guards hurried to keep up. "Where is he?" de Graaf demanded. Who? Who? Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, the biggest star at this entire event." Marcus felt the earth tilt beneath his feet. I asked for additional identification. The photo wasn't clear, and I was just following protocol." "Protocol?" De Graaf's voice rose to a near shriek. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? You turned away Lewis Hamilton from the VIP entrance." "But there was a drunk fan, and I was protecting. I don't care about a drunk fan. I care that you just humiliated one of the most famous athletes in the world. He could have you fired. He could have me fired. He could shut down this entire security company." Other guards were staring now. Some fans at the nearby barriers had their phones out, recording. Marcus's voice came out small. He was kind about it. He said it was okay. "It is not okay." De Graaf grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him away from the entrance. "Security office. Now." The walk to the security office felt like a death march. Marcus's mind raced. Lewis Hamilton? Of course. How could he have been so stupid? Sophia loved watching racing on Mr. Chen's old television. She'd pointed at the screen just last week. "Papa, that man is so fast." The security office was a converted storage room with flickering fluorescent lights and a desk covered in coffee rings. DeGraff slammed the door. "Give me your badge." Marcus unpinned it with shaking fingers. "You're suspended," DeGraff said coldly. "Pending investigation. If Hamilton files a complaint, you're done. Not just with this company, with any security work in Monaco. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded numbly. "Get out." The bus ride home took 90 minutes. Marcus sat in the back, staring at his reflection in the grimy window. His borrowed uniform felt like a costume now. A joke. He thought about Sophia, waiting at home with Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor who watched her during the day. Sophia, who'd been so excited last night when Marcus told her about his important assignment. "Will you see the race cars, Papa?" she'd asked, her eyes shining. "Maybe," Marcus had said, "but my job is to keep everyone safe." Like a superhero? Like a very boring superhero. She'd giggled, and the sound had filled his heart. Now, Marcus pulled out his phone. A text from Mrs. Chen waited. "Sophia asking when you'll be home. She wants to show you her drawing." Marcus typed back, "On my way." He didn't add that he'd been suspended. He didn't add that they might lose the apartment. He didn't add that Sophia's therapy, the precious twice-weekly sessions that were teaching her to walk, would have to stop because he couldn't afford the next payment. The bus lurched around a corner. Through the window, Monaco's wealth glittered. Yachts in the harbor, luxury hotels, sports cars purring along perfect streets. This city was built for the rich, and Marcus was a ghost passing through it. He closed his eyes and saw the moment again. The man in the gray hoodie, pulling out his wallet to show identification. The kind smile. The understanding in his voice when he'd said, "Of course, no problem." And then Marcus had failed to protect him from a drunk fan. No, that wasn't right. Marcus had protected the entrance. He'd followed the rules. He'd done his job exactly as he was trained. But somehow, doing his job perfectly had cost him everything. The bus reached his stop, a neighborhood where paint peeled from buildings and laundry hung between balconies. Marcus climbed the 4 flights of stairs to his apartment, each step heavier than the last. Mrs. Chen opened her door as he approached. She was 73, with kind eyes and hands weathered from decades of work. "You're home early," she said. "Slow day." The lie tasted bitter. "Sophia is drawing. She missed you." Marcus forced a smile. "Thank you for watching her." Inside his tiny apartment, Sophia sat at the kitchen table, her wheelchair pulled up close, colored pencils scattered across the surface. Her tongue poked out in concentration as she drew. Papa!" She looked up, her whole face brightening. "You're home!" Marcus knelt beside her wheelchair, hugging her tight. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and childhood. "What are you drawing, Mija?" "A race car. See?" She held up the paper. The car was lopsided, more imagination than reality, but filled with love. "It's perfect," Marcus whispered. "Did you see any race cars today?" Marcus thought of the black Mercedes, of Lewis Hamilton walking away toward the regular entrance because Marcus had asked for more identification. "I saw something better," Marcus said. "I saw someone who was kind even when he didn't have to be." Sophia tilted her head, curious. "Who?" "Just someone. Hey, are you hungry?" They ate pasta with butter, the cheap kind from the discount store. Sophia chattered about her day, about the story Mrs. Aunt Chen had read her, about the bird she'd seen from the window. Marcus listened and smiled and tried not to think about tomorrow, or next week. or the therapy session they'd already missed 3 days ago. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Marcus stood on their tiny balcony. The Monaco harbor sparkled in the distance, another world away. He pulled out his phone and searched. Lewis Hamilton. The images that appeared showed a man transformed, polished, confident, wearing designer clothes and surrounded by celebrities. But in one photo, a candid shot from years ago, Lewis wore a simple hoodie and smiled at the camera with warmth in his eyes. The same hoodie. The same smile. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered to the phone screen. "I was just trying to protect my daughter." But the pixels didn't answer. Inside, Sophia murmured in her sleep, and Marcus went to her bedside, watching her chest rise and fall. Her legs, thin and weak, but growing stronger with each therapy session, twitched beneath the blanket. She'd walked 3 steps last week. 3 miraculous, impossible steps. And now, those steps might be the last she'd take for a long time. Marcus laid down on his mattress on the floor. He'd given Sophia the only bed, and stared at the ceiling. Water stains formed shapes in the darkness. He tried to pray, but couldn't find the words. Tomorrow, he'd have to figure out what to do. Tomorrow, he'd have to face reality. But tonight, he let himself remember the way Lewis Hamilton had smiled and said, "Of course, no problem." Like being asked for identification was the most natural thing in the world. Like Marcus wasn't bothering him at all. There had been no anger in that smile, no impatience, just understanding. "Why?" Marcus whispered to the darkness. "Why were you so kind?" The ceiling didn't answer. The water stains kept their secrets. And Marcus Rivera, father and failed security guard, finally fell asleep wondering if tomorrow would bring disaster or something else entirely. He had no way of knowing that in just 9 hours, Lewis Hamilton would knock on his door and change everything. But that's another part of the story. For now, Marcus simply slept and dreamed of Sophia running. Marcus woke to the sound of Sophia crying. He bolted upright, his heart racing. Dawn light crept through the thin curtains, painting the apartment in shades of gray. Sophia sat in her bed, clutching her leg, tears streaming down her face. "Mija, what's wrong?" Marcus rushed to her side, his own body aching from the floor. My leg hurts, Papa," she whimpered. "It hurts bad." Marcus knew what this meant. The muscle spasms came when she went too long without therapy. Dr. Rousseau had warned him. Consistency was everything. Miss too many sessions, and Sophia's muscles would tighten, pulling against bones that weren't strong enough yet. "I know, baby. I know." He gently massaged her calf, feeling the knots beneath her skin. "Let me get your medicine." He retrieved the muscle relaxer from the bathroom cabinet, one of only 3 pills left. The prescription needed refilling, but that required money he didn't have. Sophia swallowed the pill with water, her small face scrunched up. "When can I go back to Dr. Rousseau?" The question pierced Marcus's chest like a blade. "Soon, Mija. Very soon. You always say soon." Her voice was so small, so tired. But it's been 3 weeks. Had it been 3 weeks already? Marcus counted backward. She was right. 3 weeks since her last session. 3 weeks of watching her progress disappear like sand through fingers. "I'm working on it," Marcus said, hating the weakness in his own voice. Sophia looked at him with eyes too old for 8 years. "We don't have money, do we?" Children who grew up poor learned to read silence. They learned that soon meant maybe never. They learned that their parents' forced smiles hid oceans of worry. "We'll figure it out," Marcus promised. "Now rest. The medicine will help." He stayed with her until the medication dulled the pain, and she drifted back to sleep. Her breath came easier now, but Marcus could see the tension still locked in her thin legs. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and a text from an unknown number. "This is DeGraff. Meeting at security office, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Marcus checked the time, 6:47 a.m. 2 hours to prepare for what would probably be his termination. He made coffee, the instant kind that tasted like burned cardboard, and sat at the kitchen table. The apartment felt suffocating suddenly. One room serving as bedroom, living room, and dining room. A kitchenette barely big enough to turn around in. A bathroom with a shower that only produced cold water. But it was home. And if he lost his job, they'd lose even this. Marcus opened his laptop, a decade-old machine that wheezed when it started up. He needed to check his bank account, though he already knew what he'd find. On balance, €247.32, rent due in 5 days. €850 Sophia's therapy per session. €800, food for the month, roughly €300. The math was simple, brutal, but simple. Even if he kept his security job, they were drowning. Without it, they'd go under completely. A sound from the bedroom made him look up. Sophia had pushed herself into her wheelchair, determined even in pain. She rolled into the kitchen, her hair messy from sleep. "You should rest," Marcus said. "I'm hungry." He made her toast with jam, the last of the jar. She ate slowly, methodically, the way she did everything. Sophia had learned patience from years of physical therapy. Every movement was measured, every step a victory. "Papa?" She looked up at him with serious eyes. "Are you sad?" Marcus forced a smile. "Why would I be sad? And I'm having breakfast with the most beautiful girl in Monaco." "You have your worried face, the one where your eyebrows go close together." She demonstrated, scrunching her own eyebrows. He laughed, despite everything. "You're too smart for your own good." Mama used to say that too. The mention of Elena hung in the air between them. Marcus kept one photo of his wife on the wall, her holding newborn Sophia, both of them in the hospital. Elena's smile was radiant despite her exhaustion. She'd died 6 hours after that photo was taken. "Your mama was the smart one," Marcus said softly. "You got that from her." "And my stubbornness from you?" "Definitely from me." They sat in comfortable silence, sharing the moment. Outside, Monaco woke up around them, car engines purring, boat horns in the harbor, the city of wealth stirring to life. At 8:30 a.m., Mrs. Chen knocked on the door. "Good morning, Rivera family," she said in her cheerful way. Mrs. Chen had been a nurse before retiring, and she loved Sophia like a granddaughter. "Ready for our day, Miss Sophia?" "Mrs. Chen, I can't pay you for this week," Marcus admitted. "I'm sorry." The old woman waved her hand dismissively. "You think I watch this angel for money? Please. She keeps me young. Now go to your meeting." Marcus hugged Sophia goodbye, breathing in her strawberry shampoo smell one more time. "I love you to the moon," he whispered. "And back again," she finished. Their ritual. The bus to the security office took 40 minutes. Marcus stood near the back, watching Monaco transform from his poor neighborhood to the glittering downtown. And the contrast was sharp, going from crumbling buildings to luxury boutiques in the span of 10 minutes. He arrived at Elite Security Services at 8:57 a.m. The office building was modest compared to Monaco's standards, but still nicer than anywhere Marcus had ever worked. Glass doors, marble floors, a receptionist who looked at him with thinly veiled pity. "Marcus Rivera for Mr. DeGraff," he said. "Third floor." He's expecting you. The elevator ride felt eternal. Marcus watched the numbers climb. 1, 2, 3. Each floor taking him closer to disaster. DeGraff's office was exactly what Marcus expected. Neat, soulless, decorated with certificates and photos of the man shaking hands with wealthy clients. DeGraff sat behind his desk, his expression cold. Sit. Marcus sat. DeGraff pulled out a folder, opening it with deliberate slowness. I've been in contact with the Monaco Grand Prix organization. They've reviewed the incident. Sir, I'm not finished. DeGraff's voice could cut glass. Lewis Hamilton's team filed a report. Do you know what it said? Marcus's throat constricted. No, sir. It said, and I quote, "Security guard performed his duties appropriately. No complaint filed, no action requested." Marcus blinked. What? You heard me. Hamilton isn't pressing charges, isn't even upset. DeGraff leaned back in his chair. But that doesn't change the fact that you created a situation that could have been a public relations nightmare. I asked for identification like I was trained. You asked a 7-time world champion for identification. Do you understand how that looks? But he's one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet. But I didn't recognize him, Marcus said quietly. I'm sorry, but I didn't. The photo was small. He was wearing a hoodie. I was following protocol. DeGraff's jaw tightened. Protocol doesn't account for common sense. Common sense would be assuming that anyone in expensive clothes must be important? That's not security, Mr. DeGraff. That's prejudice. The words escaped before Marcus could stop them. The room fell silent. DeGraff's face darkened. Are you lecturing me about security? No, sir. I'm just saying I did what you trained me to do. Check credentials, verify identity, protect the entrance. Marcus's hands gripped the chair arms. If I'd let him through without proper verification, and he'd turned out to be someone else, you'd be firing me for that instead. Watch your tone, Rivera. I apologize. Marcus took a breath. But I need this job, Mr. DeGraff. I have a daughter. She needs medical care. I can't afford to lose this position. Should have thought about that before you embarrassed this company. Hamilton's team said I performed appropriately. But the optics, Marcus interrupted, his voice rising, are that a security guard did his job correctly. If that's embarrassing, then maybe the problem isn't me. The silence that followed was arctic. DeGraff closed the folder with a sharp snap. You're suspended without pay for 2 weeks. After that, we'll reassess. 2 weeks? Sir, please. Be grateful I'm not terminating you outright. You can go. Marcus stood on shaking legs. Mr. DeGraff, my daughter needs medical therapy. I'm begging you. That's not my problem. The suspension stands. Doors behind you. Marcus walked out of that office, feeling hollow. The elevator ride down was a blur. The marble lobby spun around him. On the street, Monaco's wealth mocked him. A Ferrari revved at a stoplight. A woman walked past carrying shopping bags from stores where a single shirt cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. He found a bench near the harbor and sat, staring at the yachts bobbing in crystal blue water. Each boat probably cost millions. Each one represented more money than Marcus would earn in 10 lifetimes. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. Sophia wants to know if you'll be home for lunch? Marcus typed back, Yes, be there soon. But he didn't move. He couldn't face Sophia yet. Couldn't tell her that he'd been suspended. That her therapy sessions would have to stop indefinitely now. That her progress, those 3 miraculous steps, would vanish. A little girl ran past the bench, chasing a ball. Her parents followed, laughing. The girl's legs worked perfectly, effortlessly. She took running for granted the way healthy children do. Marcus closed his eyes against the burning tears. "You were doing your job," he whispered to himself. "You did nothing wrong." But right and wrong didn't matter when you couldn't pay rent. Couldn't matter when your daughter's legs cramped from lack of therapy. Morality was a luxury poor people couldn't afford. Marcus finally stood and walked to the bus stop. The ride home felt longer somehow, each stop a reminder of failure. When he arrived at the apartment, Sophia was drawing again. She looked up, her smile bright. "Papa, you're home." "I'm home, Mija. Mrs. Chen made soup. Are you hungry?" "Starving." Another lie. They ate together at the small table. Sophia talked about a cartoon she'd watched, about a superhero who could fly. Marcus listened and nodded, and tried to memorize this moment. Her joy, her innocence, the way she gestured wildly when she got excited. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Marcus sat on the balcony again. The harbor lights twinkled like false promises. He thought about Lewis Hamilton's kind smile, about the way he'd said, "Of course, no problem." Why had he been so understanding? Rich people didn't usually accept inconvenience gracefully. They demanded special treatment. They expected the world to recognize them. But Hamilton had just accepted it. Like being stopped by security was normal. Like Marcus's job mattered. "I don't understand," Marcus whispered to the stars. Inside, Sophia stirred in her sleep. Marcus went to check on her, adjusting her blanket, smoothing her hair. Tomorrow he'd have to figure out the rent, figure out the therapy, figure out how to survive 2 weeks without income. But tonight, he simply sat beside his daughter's bed and watched her dream. He had no way of knowing that tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m., Lewis Hamilton would knock on his door carrying a folder that would change everything. But that revelation was still hours away. For now, Marcus simply existed in the weight of consequences, feeling crushed by a system that punished integrity and rewarded compromise. He'd done his job correctly, and it had cost him everything. Marcus woke to knocking. At first, he thought he was dreaming. The sound was polite, a gentle, not the aggressive pounding of a landlord demanding rent. He checked his phone through bleary eyes. 7:30 a.m. The knocking came again, more insistent, but still respectful. Marcus rolled off his mattress on the floor, his back protesting. He'd slept in his clothes, too exhausted last night to bother changing. Through the thin wall, he could hear Sophia still sleeping, her breathing deep and steady. He opened the door a crack, preparing to tell whoever it was that he couldn't afford whatever they were selling. Lewis Hamilton stood in the hallway. Marcus's brain stuttered, unable to process what his eyes were seeing. The hallway was dingy, fluorescent lights flickering, walls stained with years of neglect, the smell of fried food and mildew hanging in the air. And there, in the middle of this poverty, stood one of the richest athletes in the world. Lewis wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans. No jewelry except a watch. No bodyguards, no cameras. Just him, holding a leather messenger bag, looking somehow both completely out of place and perfectly comfortable. "Marcus Rivera?" Lewis asked, as if he needed confirmation. Marcus couldn't form words. "Yes, How did you—" "Can I come in?" Lewis's voice was gentle, understanding. "I promise, I'm not here to cause trouble." Marcus looked down at himself, wrinkled clothes, unwashed face, the apartment behind him tiny and humble. Then he looked at Lewis Hamilton, who waited patiently, not rushing him, not judging. "Of course, I'm sorry, Marcus stepped aside, his hand shaking as he held the door open. Louis entered the apartment, and Marcus saw it through his eyes. The single room with a curtain dividing Sophia's bed area from his mattress on the floor. The kitchen table with mismatched chairs. The ancient television on a plastic crate. Medical equipment stacked in the corner. A wheelchair, leg braces, resistance bands. The walls covered with Sophia's drawings, bright splashes of color in the gray space. But Louis didn't look uncomfortable or pitying. His eyes went straight to the drawings, and something soft crossed his face. "Your daughter?" he asked, moving closer to examine a picture of a rainbow. "Sophia. She's 8. Marcus's voice came out hoarse. "Mr. Hamilton, I'm so sorry about yesterday. I was just trying to do my job correctly, and I didn't mean to disrespect." Louis turned, holding up a hand. "Please, call me Louis. And Marcus. Oh, I'm not here about yesterday." He gestured to the worn couch. "Can we sit?" Marcus nodded numbly. Louis sat on the couch, as if he'd been invited to a palace instead of a crumbling apartment. He set his messenger bag on the floor, then leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Actually, I need to thank you for yesterday," Louis said. "Thank me?" Marcus almost laughed. "I got suspended. 2 weeks without pay. My supervisor said I embarrassed the company." "Your supervisor is wrong." Louis's tone was firm. "You did exactly what security should do. You checked credentials. You protected the entrance. You didn't let a drunk fan through. That's professional. But I didn't recognize you." "So," Louis smiled. "Marcus, do you know how rare that is in my world? Everyone recognizes me. Everyone wants something. Every interaction is performed. And but you," he shook his head. "You just saw a man at a security checkpoint. You treated me like everyone else." Marcus sat in the mismatched chair across from Louis, still struggling to believe this was happening. "I still don't understand why you're here." "I asked about you." Louis's expression grew serious. "After yesterday, I was curious. Who was the guard who stood his ground? Who followed the rules even when it looked difficult? So I made some calls." Marcus's stomach tightened. "What kind of calls?" "The kind where I learned about your situation." Louis's eyes were compassionate, not pitying. "I learned about Sophia, about your wife, about why you came to Monaco." "How?" Marcus's voice cracked. "How could you possibly know all that?" "Because I wanted to know who you are. Not just your name. Who you are." Louis leaned back slightly. "And I found out something interesting. Yesterday wasn't about security protocol at all, was it?" Marcus stared at his hands, feeling exposed. "I don't know what you mean." "Tell me about Sophia's therapy, Marcus." The question hit like a punch. Marcus looked up sharply. "Why?" "Because I think that's what yesterday was really about." Louis's voice was gentle but perceptive. "You weren't just protecting a VIP entrance. You were protecting something else." The words hung in the air between them. From behind the curtain, Sophia stirred but didn't wake. Her soft breathing was the only sound in the apartment. Marcus felt something break inside him. The wall he'd built to survive, to keep going, to pretend everything was manageable. "Sophia was born at 7 months," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "There were complications. My wife, Elena, she hemorrhaged. They couldn't stop the bleeding." Louis listened without interrupting, his full attention on Marcus. "Elena died 6 hours after giving birth. I didn't even get to say goodbye properly. I was so focused on Sophia, on whether she would survive, that Marcus's throat closed. "I never told Elena I loved her one last time." "I'm sorry," Louis said, and it sounded genuine. "Sophia stayed in the hospital for 3 months. They said she might not make it. Then they said she'd probably never walk. Cerebral palsy. Her muscles don't work the way they should. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. But they were wrong. A doctor in Caracas, Dr. Mendez, he believed in her. Started therapy when she was 2. By age 3, she could sit up alone. By age 5, she could stand with support. She's a fighter, Lewis observed, like her mother. Marcus smiled through his tears. But then Venezuela's economy collapsed. Dr. Mendez left the country. We had no money, no opportunities. So we came here to Monaco, because I heard there were jobs. Because I thought maybe, in a wealthy country, Sophia could get the treatment she needed. And did she? We found Dr. Rousseau. She's a miracle worker. After 6 months with her, Sophia took 3 steps without her walker. 3 steps. Marcus's voice broke with emotion. Do you know what that means? For a child, doctors said would never walk? It means everything, Lewis said softly. But the sessions cost €800 each, twice a week. I've been working 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, security during the day, sleeping 4 hours. But it's not enough. We've missed the last 6 sessions. I watch Sophia's progress disappear week by week. Her muscles tighten. The pain comes back. And yesterday you were terrified, Lewis finished. I was following protocol because I couldn't afford one mistake. One mistake means losing the job. Losing the job means losing our apartment. Losing the apartment means Sophia loses everything. Marcus looked at Lewis directly. So, yes, I asked you for additional identification. Not because I didn't believe you, but because I was so scared of messing up that I couldn't think straight. Lewis nodded slowly. You were protecting your daughter. I've failed to protect her. Marcus gestured at the small apartment. Look at this place. Look at what I've given her. She deserves so much more. She has a father who works himself to exhaustion for her, who follows the rules even when he's terrified, who stands his ground against drunk fans to protect a stranger. Lewis's eyes were intense. Marcus, do you have any idea how valuable that is? It doesn't pay for therapy. No, Lewis agreed, but it shows character. And character matters. A sound from behind the curtain made both men look up. Sophia's wheelchair squeaked as she maneuvered it into the main room. She wore pajamas with cartoon characters, her hair messy from sleep. When she saw Lewis, she froze. Papa? Her voice was small, uncertain. Who's this? Marcus stood quickly. Mija, this is Lewis. Like the race car driver? Sophia's eyes went wide. She rolled closer, studying Lewis with the fearless curiosity of children. Papa watches races sometimes on Mr. Chen's TV. Lewis turned to face her fully, and his entire demeanor changed. The intensity softened into warmth. He slid off the couch and knelt on the floor so he was at her eye level in the wheelchair. Hi, Sophia, he said gently. Your papa's told me about you. You're pretty amazing. Sophia giggled. I can't walk very good. But you're learning. That's what makes you amazing. She looked at her father, then back at Lewis. Are you really a race car driver? I am. Do you like racing? It's too fast. Sophia wrinkled her nose. But Papa says you have to be brave to go that fast. Your papa's right. Lewis smiled. But you know what's braver than racing? What? Working hard every single day to learn something difficult, like learning to walk. Lewis's voice was sincere, not patronizing. That takes more courage than anything I do. Sophia beamed at the compliment. Then her expression grew more serious. Papa says we can't go to Dr. Rousseau anymore. Because of money. The innocent statement landed like a bomb. Marcus felt shame burn through him. "Sophia, we'll go back soon." "That's what you always say." Sophia's voice held no accusation, just sad acceptance. "But soon never comes." Louis glanced at Marcus, then back at Sophia. "What if I told you that you might have therapy tomorrow?" Sophia's face lit up, then dimmed. "Papa can't afford it." "What if someone helped?" "Who would help us?" The question was heartbreaking in its simplicity. Nobody helps people like us. Louis reached into his messenger bag and pulled out a folder. He set it on the coffee table between them, then looked at Marcus. "Marcus, I came here this morning because yesterday showed me something important. And I want to tell you a story. Is that okay?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak. Sophia rolled her wheelchair closer, intrigued. Louis pulled out his phone and opened a photo. He showed it to them. A young boy in a racing suit, standing next to a security guard at a small karting track. The boy looked about 9 or 10, beaming at the camera. The security guard was an older man with kind eyes. "That's you," Sophia said, pointing at the boy. "That's me," Louis confirmed. "And this man was named Thomas. He was a security guard at a karting track in England." Marcus stared at the photo, a strange feeling building in his chest. "This day," Louis continued, "was supposed to change my life. My dad and I had driven 6 hours to get to this championship race. Everything depended on it. If I won, a sponsor might notice me. Without sponsors, I couldn't keep racing. And racing was our dream. My dad worked 3 jobs to keep me in karting." "What happened?" Sophia asked, captivated. "We hit traffic. Terrible traffic. We arrived at the track 45 minutes late. The race had already started." Louis's voice grew quiet with memory. "I was crying. My dad was angry. And Thomas, this security guard, he wouldn't let us through." Marcus's breath caught. "The race had started," Louis continued. "Thomas said the rules were clear. No entry after the start. My dad argued. I begged. But Thomas stood firm." "That's not fair," Sophia protested. "I thought so too at the time." Louis smiled slightly. But then Thomas did something unexpected. He made 2 phone calls, first to the race director. "I'm explaining our situation, the traffic, the distance we'd traveled." Second to his supervisor, taking full responsibility for requesting they delay the final race. "Did they?" Marcus whispered. "They held the final for 30 minutes. I raced. I won. And that win got me noticed by a sponsor who changed my entire career." Louis looked directly at Marcus. "But Marcus, here's the important part. Thomas got written up. Nearly lost his job because he broke protocol to help a crying kid and his desperate father." The room was silent except for Sophia's breathing. "Why did he do it?" Marcus finally asked. "Because he saw people, not just rules. Because he understood that sometimes doing the right thing means taking a risk." Louis tapped the folder on the table. "Thomas died 5 years ago. Cancer. I spoke at his funeral, and his family told me something I never knew. That day at the track, the stand he took, the trouble he got into, it defined the rest of his life. He never stopped being that man who did what was right, even when it was hard." Louis opened the folder now, spreading papers across the coffee table. "Marcus, yesterday when you stopped me, I didn't see someone making a mistake. I saw Thomas. I saw someone willing to risk everything to do their job with dignity and integrity. Someone who protected an entrance from a drunk fan, even though it would have been easier to just let it go. Someone who followed the rules because the rules matter." "I don't understand," Marcus said, his heart pounding. Louis pushed the first paper forward. This is Dr. Rousseau's therapy schedule for Sophia. Prepaid, but twice weekly sessions for the next 2 years. Marcus's vision blurred. He couldn't read the words. Louis pushed forward another paper. This is a lease agreement for a 3-bedroom apartment in Fontvieille. Ground floor, wheelchair accessible, near Sophia's therapy center and a good school. Sophia gasped. Papa, a real apartment? Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. And this, Louis said, pushing forward the final paper, is a job offer. My foundation needs a security coordinator for our youth programs across Europe. Someone who understands what real security means. Someone with integrity. The papers swam before Marcus's eyes. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. Why? He finally choked out. Why would you do this? Louis sat back, his expression open and honest. Because Thomas taught me something 28 years ago, and I've been waiting for the chance to pay it forward. Because you showed me yesterday that there are still people who do the right thing, even when they're scared. Even when it costs them everything. He paused. And because Sophia deserves to walk, Marcus, she deserves every chance. And you deserve to give her those chances without having to sacrifice your own health and sanity. Marcus buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs he'd held back for years. All the fear, all the exhaustion, all the desperate hope. It poured out of him. Sophia wheeled herself over and hugged her father fiercely. Don't cry, Papa. These are happy tears, Mija, Marcus managed. These are happy tears. Louis stood quietly, giving them the moment. And he moved to look at Sophia's drawings again, studying each one with genuine interest. After several minutes, Marcus composed himself enough to speak. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the job, Louis replied simply. Say you'll let us help. But I don't deserve... That's exactly why you do deserve it. Louis turned from the drawings. Marcus, do you know why I started my foundation? Why I focus on education and opportunity for underprivileged kids? Marcus shook his head. Because I was one of those kids. My dad worked 3 jobs. We lived in a caravan. We ate budget meals and sacrificed everything. I remember being 8 years old, Sophia's age, watching my father's hands shake from exhaustion and promising myself that if I ever made it, I would remember where I came from. Louis's voice was thick with emotion. Your daughter is 8. She's watching you work yourself to death. And I can help. I can break that cycle for her. But you don't even know us, Marcus protested weakly. I know enough. I know you're a good father. I know you have integrity. I know you're exactly the kind of person my foundation needs. Louis smiled. And honestly, after meeting Sophia, I want to help. She reminds me of myself at that age. Tough, determined, full of dreams. Sophia beamed at being called tough. Marcus looked at the papers on the table, at his daughter in her wheelchair, at Lewis Hamilton, one of the most famous athletes in the world, standing in their tiny apartment with drawings taped to the walls. I don't understand, Marcus said again. Yesterday I stopped you at a security checkpoint. How does that turn into this? Louis's eyes held infinite kindness. Because yesterday you didn't see a celebrity. You saw a man who needed to prove his identity. You treated me like everyone else. Do you know how rare that is in my world? How precious? I was just doing my job. Exactly. Louis sat back down on the couch. Marcus, I spend my life surrounded by people who treat me differently because of who I am. People who want something. People who see fame and money instead of a person. But you? You just saw someone at a checkpoint. You asked for ID? You protected the entrance. You were professional and kind, and you did your job correctly. And got suspended for it, Marcus said bitterly. Which shows how broken the system is, Lewis countered. But more importantly, it showed me your character. When that drunk fan came at me, you stepped between us without hesitation. You protected a stranger. And that's who you are. Sophia tugged on Marcus's shirt. Papa, can I really go back to Dr. Rousseau? Marcus looked at his daughter, her hopeful eyes, her thin legs, her fierce spirit, and felt something shift inside him. For months, he'd been carrying the weight of her future alone, drowning under it, failing despite his best efforts. But now, someone was offering a hand. Someone was saying, "You don't have to do this alone anymore." "Yes, Mija," Marcus whispered. "You can go back." Sophia shrieked with joy, hugging her father so tight he could barely breathe. Lewis smiled, watching them. "So is that a yes? You'll take the job?" Marcus looked at him. This man who had every reason to be angry yesterday, but chose to be curious instead. Who could have ignored a security guard's struggles, but chose to help. "Why me?" Marcus asked one more time. "See, why not someone more qualified?" Because qualification isn't just about experience. It's about character. And you, Marcus Rivera, have more character than anyone I've met in a long time. Lewis stood, extending his hand. "So, what do you say? Want to help me build something good?" Marcus stood too, his legs shaky. He looked at Sophia, who nodded encouragingly. He looked at the papers on the table. Therapy, apartment, job, future. He looked at Lewis Hamilton's extended hand, and he took it. "Yes," Marcus said. "Thank you. Yes." The handshake was firm, warm, sealing something more than just an employment contract. It was a promise, a new beginning, a debt paid forward from a security guard named Thomas to a father named Marcus. "Welcome to the team," Lewis said. "Now, let's go see Dr. Rousseau and schedule Sophia's first session back." "What do you say?" Sophia wheeled herself toward the door. "Can we go now? Right now?" Both men laughed, the sound bright and full of hope in the small apartment that suddenly felt much larger. Wait, Marcus said, his laughter fading into something more cautious. Lewis, I need to understand what this really means." Lewis turned from where he'd been helping Sophia find her shoes. "Of course. What do you want to know?" Marcus gestured at the papers on the table, his hands still trembling slightly. "All of this. It's too much. I can't just accept." "Why not?" Lewis's question was direct, but not challenging. "Because..." Marcus struggled to find words that didn't sound like pride or fear. "Because I don't know what you expect in return." Sophia looked between them, confused. "Papa?" Lewis sat back down on the couch, his expression thoughtful. "Marcus, let me tell you more about why I'm here. Not just the Thomas story, the whole truth." Marcus slowly sat across from him again, feeling the weight of something unspoken in Lewis's voice. "Do you know where I grew up?" Lewis asked. "England?" Marcus ventured. "Stevenage, a working-class town north of London." Lewis leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "My dad, Anthony, he worked as a contractor. Long hours, physical labor. My mom left when I was young, so it was just us. And racing was expensive. Impossibly expensive for a family like ours." Sophia wheeled closer, captivated by the story. "My dad took on extra jobs, worked nights, worked weekends, put up for sale signs, laid paving stones, anything to earn money for my karting." Lewis's voice grew thick with memory. "I remember him falling asleep at the dinner table. I remember his hands covered in blisters. I remember being 10 years old and hearing him on the phone, begging for payment extensions. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. He knew that exhaustion, that desperation. One time, Lewis continued, I was 12. We were at a race 3 hours from home. My dad had worked a double shift the night before, then drove us there on no sleep. During my qualifying session, I looked over and saw him in the pit area, literally asleep, standing up. He was so tired he couldn't keep his eyes open. What did you do? Sophia asked softly. I won the race. And when they gave me the trophy, I remember thinking, this has to be worth it. All his sacrifice has to mean something. Lewis looked at Marcus directly. But you know what haunted me? And the fear that maybe it wouldn't be. That maybe I'd fail, and all his suffering would be for nothing. Marcus understood that fear intimately. It lived in his chest every day. My dad never complained, Lewis said. Never told me it was too hard. Never asked me to give up my dream. But I saw it. I saw what it cost him. And when I finally made it to Formula One, when the money started coming, the first thing I did was make sure my dad never had to work like that again. He must have been so proud, Marcus said quietly. He cried. Lewis smiled at the memory. Grown man, tough as nails, and he sobbed when I told him he could retire. But here's what he said to me. The work wasn't the hard part, Lewis. The hard part was wondering if I was doing enough for you. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow, and that was exactly what kept him awake at night. The fear that he wasn't doing enough for Sophia. So when I see you, Lewis continued, working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours, sacrificing everything for Sophia's therapy, I see my dad. I see that same desperation, that same love. He paused. And I see that same fear. What if it's not enough? Marcus's throat tightened. It's not enough. I'm failing her. No. Lewis's voice was firm. You're not failing. The system is failing you. There's a difference. But if I were smarter, or worked harder, or… Marcus, stop. Lewis leaned forward. Let me tell you what I learned from my dad's sacrifice. It's not about working harder. You can't outwork poverty. Trust me, my dad tried. What matters is giving people a chance. A real chance. Not charity. Opportunity. This feels like charity, Marcus admitted, his voice small. It's not. Lewis picked up the job offer. This position is real. My foundation needs someone like you. Someone who understands what these kids are facing because you've lived it. Someone who can look at a young person from nothing and see possibility instead of statistics. But I don't have experience with foundations, or you have the experience that matters. You know what it's like to fight for your child's future. You know what dignity means when you have nothing else. Lewis set the paper down. Marcus, I'm not offering you this job because I feel sorry for you. I'm offering it because you're exactly who we need. Sophia had been listening quietly, her small face serious. Now she spoke up. Papa, tell him about Mama. Marcus froze. Mija, see, that's not… He should know, Sophia insisted with the blunt honesty of children, about why we came here, about Mama's promise. Lewis waited, not pushing, giving Marcus space to decide. Marcus closed his eyes, and suddenly he was back in that hospital room in Caracas. Elena, pale and weak, holding their premature daughter for the first and last time. My wife was a nurse, Marcus began, his voice rough. Elena. She worked in a public hospital in Caracas, one of the few that still functioned during the crisis. She saw things, terrible things. Children dying from preventable diseases because there was no medicine. Families choosing which child to feed because there wasn't enough for everyone. Louis listened with complete attention. When Elena got pregnant, she was terrified. The hospital had no supplies, no electricity half the time. Our infant mortality rates were climbing every month. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. She made me promise something. In her 8th month, she sat me down and said, "Marcus, if anything happens to me, you have to get our baby somewhere safe, somewhere she can have a real life." She knew, Sophia said quietly. Mama knew she might die. Marcus nodded, tears streaming down his face. She had high blood pressure, preeclampsia. The doctors said she needed special monitoring, but the equipment was broken. When Sophia came early, there were complications. Hemorrhaging. They didn't have enough blood for transfusion. Didn't have the right medications. The apartment was silent except for Marcus's ragged breathing. Elena died holding Sophia, Marcus continued. Her last words were, "Get her out. Get her somewhere she can walk. Promise me, on Marcus. Promise me she'll walk." Louis's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "So I promised. I promised my dying wife that our daughter would walk, that I would get her somewhere with real medical care, that Sophia would have chances Elena and I never had." Marcus looked at Louis desperately. "Do you understand? This isn't just about therapy or jobs or apartments. This is about keeping a promise to my dead wife. This is about honoring her sacrifice." "And you feel like you're failing that promise," Louis said gently. "I am failing it," Marcus's voice broke. Sophia was walking 3 steps. 3 steps. Elena would have been so proud. But now those steps are gone because I can't afford the therapy, because I'm not enough, because no matter how hard I try, I can't give Sophia what Elena died to give her. Sophia wheeled over to her father, grabbing his hand. "Papa, you're not failing. You're the best papa in the world. But you're not walking anymore, mija." "Not yet," Sophia said, with heartbreaking optimism. "But I will again. Dr. Rousseau said my muscles remember. We just have to practice." Marcus pulled his daughter onto his lap, holding her like she might disappear. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I can't give you more." "You give me everything," Sophia whispered. "You give me love." Louis stood and walked to the window, his back to them, giving them privacy while he composed himself. When he turned around, his face was wet with tears he didn't bother to hide. "Marcus," Louis said, his voice thick with emotion, "I want to tell you something about promises, about the ones we make and the ones that get made for us." Marcus looked up, still holding Sophia. "My dad never promised me I'd be a race car driver. He never said, 'Louis, I'll sacrifice everything so you can achieve your dream.' But he did it anyway. He gave up his own dreams, his own comfort, his own life, for mine." Louis sat back down. "And for years, I felt guilty. Like his sacrifice was too big. Like I could never repay it." "How did you stop feeling guilty?" Marcus asked. "I didn't. I still feel it every day." Louis smiled sadly. "But I learned something. The point of sacrifice isn't repayment. It's continuation. My dad didn't sacrifice so I could pay him back. He sacrificed so I could be free. Free to live my potential. Free to become who I was meant to be." "I don't understand what that has to do with—" "Elena didn't die so you could carry guilt forever," Louis interrupted gently. "She died so Sophia could be free. Free from the limitations of poverty and broken systems, free to walk, free to dream, free to become whoever she's meant to be." The words settled into Marcus's bones, reshaping something fundamental. "Your promise to Elena wasn't just about medical care or walking," Louis continued. It was about giving Sophia possibilities. And Marcus, you've done that. You got her out of Venezuela. You found Dr. Rousseau. You worked yourself to exhaustion to give her chances. You've kept your promise. But she's not walking. Because you hit a systemic barrier, Lewis said firmly. Not because you failed. There's a massive difference. You did everything humanly possible. But one person can't overcome poverty and medical costs and immigration and economic inequality all alone. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. That's why I'm here, Lewis said. Not to fix your failure, because you haven't failed, but to remove the barriers, to make your promise possible instead of impossible. By paying for everything? Marcus's voice held doubt. By investing in potential, in Sophia's potential, in your potential. Lewis picked up the job offer again. This isn't charity, Marcus. This is strategy. My foundation works because we find people who understand struggle, who have integrity and heart and wisdom born from suffering. You're that person. I'm just a security guard. You're a father who kept his promise against impossible odds. You're a man who stood his ground against a drunk fan to protect a stranger. You're someone who follows rules even when it costs everything, because integrity matters. Lewis's voice grew passionate. Do you know how many wealthy, educated, qualified people I've met who lack those qualities? Who've never had to choose between feeding their child and keeping the lights on? Who've never had to look at medical equipment and wonder if your kid's future depends on money you'll never have? Marcus was silent, processing. Those experiences, Lewis continued, that wisdom, it's invaluable. The kids my foundation serves, they need role models who've been where they are, who understand that poverty isn't a moral failing, that working 3 jobs and still falling short doesn't mean you're lazy, that sometimes the system is rigged and it takes help to overcome it. Sophia had been listening carefully. Now she asked Lewis, "So, you're helping my papa because you know what it's like?" "Exactly," Lewis said, smiling at her. "When I was your age, Sophia, we lived in a caravan. Do you know what that is? Like a trailer?" "Yes. It was small, cramped, but it was ours. And my dad made it feel like home." Lewis's expression grew tender. "Some kids at school made fun of me, said I was poor, said I'd never amount to anything. And you know what hurt the most? Seeing my dad's face when he overheard them. Seeing him blame himself for not giving me more." "That's how Papa looks sometimes," Sophia said softly, "when he thinks I'm asleep." Marcus flinched at the observation. "But here's what I learned," Lewis told Sophia. "My dad gave me the most important things: love, support, and the belief that I could achieve my dreams despite where I came from. That was worth more than any mansion or fancy car." "Papa gives me those things too," Sophia said loyally. "I know he does. I can see it in how he talks about you, how he fights for you." Lewis looked at Marcus. "So when I offer help, I'm not saying you've failed. I'm saying you've done the impossible alone, and now you don't have to be alone anymore." The words broke something open in Marcus's chest. He'd been alone for so long. Since Elena died, since they left Venezuela, since he started working 2 jobs and sleeping on floors and pretending he wasn't drowning. "I don't know how to not be alone," Marcus admitted quietly. "You learn," Lewis said, "one day at a time, starting with accepting help when it's offered." Marcus looked at the papers on the table, at Sophia in his lap, at Lewis Hamilton, who'd somehow seen past the security guard to the person underneath. "What if I mess up the job?" Marcus asked. "What if I'm not good enough? Then we'll train you, support you. I'll help you grow. Louis shrugged. Marcus, everyone messes up. I've crashed million-dollar cars. I've made terrible strategic decisions. I've lost races I should have won. But you know what? My team doesn't abandon me. They help me improve. That's different. You're Lewis Hamilton. I'm a human being who makes mistakes, Louis corrected. Just like you. Just like everyone. The difference between people isn't who messes up. It's who gets support when they do. Sophia tugged on Marcus's shirt. Papa, Mama would want you to say yes. Marcus looked at his daughter, 8 years old and wiser than she should be. How do you know? He asked. Because Mama promised you'd get me somewhere I could walk. And this man is helping keep that promise. Sophia looked at Louis. Right? Right, Louis confirmed. So saying no would be like breaking Mama's promise, Sophia concluded, with child logic that was somehow completely accurate. Marcus laughed wetly. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't listen sometimes. Both men laughed at that. The pure, honest truth of children cutting through adult complexity. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years starting to lift. Okay, he said. Okay, yes. I'll take the job. I'll accept the help. I'll stop trying to do everything alone. Louis smiled, wide and genuine. Good, because Sophia's right. Elena would want you to say yes. She wanted Sophia to walk, and now she will. When can I go to Dr. Rousseau? Sophia asked eagerly. Louis checked his watch. Her office opens at 9. It's 8:15 now. What do you say we grab breakfast? And then head over? Really? Today? Sophia's eyes went huge. Why wait? Louis stood, extending his hand to Marcus again. The paperwork can happen later. Right now, let's focus on keeping that promise. Marcus took Louis's hand and let himself be pulled to his feet. He felt lighter somehow, still scared, still uncertain, but not alone anymore. Thank you, Marcus said, his voice breaking. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for reminding me why I do this work, Louis replied. Now come on. Sophia needs to show Dr. Rousseau what she's made of. Sophia wheeled toward the door, already planning her session. I'm going to walk 5 steps this time, maybe 6. Marcus and Louis followed her, and as they left the small apartment, Marcus glanced back one more time. At the drawings on the walls, at the medical equipment in the corner, at the mattress on the floor where he'd spent so many sleepless nights worrying. This was still his home. But somehow, it felt different now. It felt like a beginning instead of an ending, like a promise kept instead of a promise broken, like hope instead of despair. And as they stepped into the Monaco morning, Sophia chattering excitedly about therapy, while Louis listened with genuine interest, Marcus thought about Elena. I'm keeping my promise, mi amor, he whispered to the sky. Our daughter is going to walk. Somewhere, he hoped Elena was smiling. The morning sun painted Monaco in shades of gold and azure as they emerged onto the street. Marcus locked the apartment door with trembling hands, hyper-aware of Lewis Hamilton standing in his building's shabby corridor, looking completely at ease despite the peeling paint and the smell of garbage from the overflowing bins near the stairwell. My car's around the corner, Louis said, gesturing toward the street. Marcus hesitated. We can take the bus. The number 12 goes near Dr. Rousseau's office. Marcus! Louis's tone was gentle but firm. Let me drive you, please. Sophia bounced in her wheelchair with excitement. Papa, a race car driver's car. Can we? Please? Marcus felt the old instinct to refuse, to maintain his independence, to not be a burden. But he looked at Sophia's hopeful face, and remembered what Louis had said. "You've done the impossible alone, and now you don't have to be alone anymore." "Okay," Marcus said quietly. "Thank you." Louis's car was a dark blue sedan, expensive but not flashy. Nothing like the supercars Marcus had seen outside Monaco's casinos. Louis opened the back door and helped Marcus lift Sophia from her wheelchair, which folded and fit easily in the trunk. "Comfortable?" Louis asked Sophia as Marcus buckled her in. "It's so nice!" Sophia ran her hands over the leather seat. "Papa, it's like a cloud." Marcus slid into the passenger seat, feeling out of place in the pristine interior. His borrowed security uniform was wrinkled, his shoes scuffed. He caught his reflection in the side mirror. Exhausted eyes, two-day stubble, the face of a man who'd been drowning. Louis started the engine, and soft music filled the car. Something classical that Marcus didn't recognize. "There's a cafe near Dr. Rousseau's office," Louis said as he navigated the narrow streets. "They make excellent croissants, and we should eat before the appointment." "I'm not really hungry," Marcus lied. He'd skipped dinner last night and breakfast this morning, saving food for Sophia. Louis glanced at him knowingly, but didn't push. "Well, I'm starving. And Sophia, you need energy for therapy, right?" "Right," Sophia agreed enthusiastically. The cafe was small and charming, with outdoor tables overlooking a quiet square. Louis parked and helped Marcus get Sophia situated in her wheelchair. A few people glanced their way. Louis was recognizable even in casual clothes, but he moved with the confidence of someone who'd learned to exist in public, without making it a spectacle. They sat at a corner table. A waitress appeared immediately, her eyes widening when she recognized Louis. "Mr. Hamilton! What an honor! On what can I get for you?" "3 of your best croissants," Louis said with an easy smile. "Hot chocolate for the young lady, and 2 coffees. And maybe some fresh fruit?" "Of course, right away." The waitress hurried off, practically glowing. Sophia giggled. "Everyone knows who you are." "Sometimes," Louis said, "but most of the time, I'm just a guy who likes croissants." The food arrived quickly. Buttery croissants that flaked at the touch, hot chocolate topped with whipped cream for Sophia, strong coffee for the adults. Marcus stared at his plate, overwhelmed by the simple generosity of it. "Eat," Louis encouraged. "I meant what I said. The job offer is real, but so is breakfast. No strings attached." Marcus picked up the croissant, and the first bite nearly made him weep. When had he last eaten something this good? Something that wasn't stale bread or instant noodles? Sophia attacked her hot chocolate with joy, getting whipped cream on her nose. Louis laughed and handed her a napkin, and something about the casualness of it, this famous athlete helping his daughter wipe her face, made Marcus's chest tight. "Tell me about your work in Venezuela," Louis said between bites. "You said you did construction?" Marcus nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Residential construction. I was a foreman for a small company in Caracas. We built homes for middle-class families before the crisis made middle class impossible." "You supervised crews?" 10 to 15 men, depending on the project. I handled scheduling, quality control, safety inspections. Marcus sipped his coffee. It was good work, honest work. But then, inflation destroyed everything, and the currency became worthless. Companies couldn't buy materials. Projects stopped halfway through. That must have been terrifying. "It was watching your life disappear in slow motion," Marcus said quietly. "Every day, everything cost more. Every day, you could afford less." Elena worked double shifts at the hospital, but her salary couldn't buy a week's groceries. "And Sophia?" His voice caught. Sophia needed medical equipment we couldn't get, medications that didn't exist anymore in the country. We were watching our daughters suffer because the whole system collapsed. Sophia had stopped drinking her chocolate, listening solemnly. She'd heard parts of this story before, but not all of it. Not the desperation. "So you left," Louis said. "We sold everything we owned, everything. Our wedding rings, Elena's nursing certificates, so my tools, everything. Used the money to pay someone who could get us travel documents." Marcus stared into his coffee. "We made it to Colombia, then worked our way north. It took 8 months to reach Monaco. 8 months of sleeping in shelters, working under the table, saving every cent." "That's incredibly brave," Louis observed. "It was incredibly desperate," Marcus corrected. "Brave makes it sound noble. It wasn't. It was survival. It was choosing between a slow death at home or the possibility of life somewhere else." Louis was quiet for a moment, then pulled out his phone. He scrolled through photos and showed one to Marcus. A young Louis and his father standing beside a battered van, both covered in grease, both grinning despite obvious exhaustion. "My dad and I lived in a van like this for 2 racing seasons," Louis said. "We'd travel from track to track, sleeping in the back. My dad would work construction jobs during the week, whatever he could find. Then we'd drive hours to races on weekends." "That must have been hard," Marcus said. "It was everything," Louis replied. "But it taught me something. Desperation and love aren't opposites. Sometimes the most desperate acts are the most loving ones." Sophia pointed at the photo. "You look happy, even though it was hard." "I was happy," Louis confirmed, "because my dad believed in me, because we were together, because even in a cramped van with no money, we had purpose." He put his phone away and looked at Marcus directly. "That's what I saw in your apartment this morning. Yes, it's small. Yes, you're struggling. But those drawings on the wall, the way Sophia talks about you, and the love in that space, it reminded me of that van, of what matters." Marcus felt his eyes burn. "I want to give her more than love." "You will," Louis said, "starting today. But Marcus, don't discount what you've already given her. You got her out of Venezuela. You found medical care in a foreign country. You work yourself to exhaustion to provide for her. That's not nothing. That's everything." The waitress returned with more coffee, stealing glances at Louis, but too professional to intrude further. "Louis," Marcus said carefully, "I need to understand something about this job. What would I actually be doing?" "Fair question." Louis pulled out his phone again, opening a document. "My foundation runs youth programs across Europe, education initiatives, sports programs, mentorship. We work with underprivileged kids. I'm giving them opportunities they wouldn't otherwise have." "Like you had," Sophia said perceptively. "Exactly like I had. But here's the thing. These programs happen in schools, community centers, sometimes in rough neighborhoods. We need someone who can coordinate security, but who also understands these communities. Someone who won't treat the kids like threats." Marcus understood immediately. Someone who sees them as children, not criminals. "Yes." Louis's voice was passionate now. "I've seen too many security people who look at poor kids and see danger, who assume they're going to steal or cause trouble. But these kids, they're just trying to survive. Like you were, like I was." "You want me to protect the programs while respecting the kids?" Marcus said slowly. "I want you to create safety without creating fear," Louis clarified. "There's a difference. Safety means the kids can focus on learning, on growing. Fear means they shut down, assume they're not wanted. Marcus thought about his own experiences, being looked at with suspicion in Monaco's wealthy neighborhoods, being followed in stores, being treated like he didn't belong. "I understand that difference," he said quietly. "I know you do. That's why I want you for this job." Louis leaned forward. "Marcus, you supervised construction crews. You managed people, projects, timelines. You have leadership experience. Add to that your lived experience of poverty, your understanding of what these families face. You're exactly what we need. But I've never worked with a foundation. We'll train you. I have a team who'll teach you the systems, the protocols. You'll start in Monaco, learn the programs here. I'd then gradually take on coordination for other European sites." Louis smiled. "And yes, there's travel involved. But good travel, the kind where Sophia can come with you during school breaks, where she can see Paris and Rome and Barcelona." Sophia gasped. "I could go to Paris?" "You could go anywhere," Louis told her. "Your papa's work would make it possible." Marcus's mind spun. This wasn't just a job. It was a completely different life. "What's the salary?" he asked, almost afraid of the answer. Louis named a figure that made Marcus's coffee cup freeze halfway to his mouth. That's more than I made in a year in Venezuela." "It's appropriate for the position and responsibility," Louis said matter-of-factly. "Plus benefits, health insurance that covers Sophia's therapy, housing allowance, travel expenses, and education support for Sophia." "Education support?" "For when she's older. University if she wants it. Vocational training if she prefers. Whatever path she chooses." Louis's expression was sincere. "Marcus, I'm not offering you charity. I'm offering you a career, a future, for both of you." Marcus set down his coffee cup before he dropped it. His hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear or exhaustion. From possibility. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Louis suggested. "We can discuss details after Sophia's therapy session. But Marcus, I want you to understand something. This offer isn't contingent on gratitude or repayment. It's not a debt. It's an opportunity. You can accept it, consider it, or decline it. Your choice. No pressure." "How can there be no pressure? On your paying for Sophia's therapy." "That's separate," Louis interrupted gently. "The therapy happens regardless of whether you take the job. I'm not holding your daughter's health hostage to employment. They're two different things." Marcus stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because Sophia deserves to walk, whether you work for me or not. Because her health isn't a bargaining chip." Louis's voice was firm. "Marcus, I mean this. The apartment, the therapy, the medical coverage, that's happening. The job is separate, real, based on your qualifications. But, no buts. This is how it works." Louis finished his coffee. "Now, Dr. Rousseau's office opens in 15 minutes. Sophia has an appointment to keep." Sophia had been listening to the entire exchange, her eyes moving between the adults like she was watching a tennis match. Now she spoke up, her voice clear and certain. "Papa, you should take the job." "Mija, it's complicated." "No, it's not." Sophia's 8-year-old logic cut through the complexity. "Louis needs someone good. You're good. You need a job that pays enough. This job pays enough. It's not complicated." Marcus laughed despite himself. "When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just worry too much." She turned to Louis. "My papa worries about everything. But he's really smart and really brave, even though he doesn't think so." Louis's smile was warm. "I can see that." "And he keeps promises," Sophia continued. "He promised Mama he'd get me somewhere I could walk. So he will. Because that's what Papa does." The simple faith in her voice broke something in Marcus. This child, who'd lost her mother, who lived in pain, who'd been uprooted from everything familiar, still believed in him completely. "Okay," Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. "Okay, I'll take the job. I'll try. He looked at Louis. "I'll probably mess up sometimes." "We all do," Louis assured him. "But that's what teams are for, to help each other improve." "I've never been on a team before." "Then it's time to learn." Louis stood, pulling out his wallet to pay for breakfast. "I can pay for my part." Marcus started to protest. "You can pay next time," Louis said easily, "when you're working and settled. For now, let me. Consider it a signing bonus." They walked to the car, Sophia chattering about what she'd tell Dr. Rousseau, about how she'd work extra hard, about how maybe she'd walk 7 steps instead of 5. Marcus helped her into the back seat again, and as he buckled her in, she grabbed his hand. "Papa, are you happy?" He looked at his daughter, this miracle child who'd survived against all odds, who fought every day to walk, who loved him despite all his failings. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But happy?" "Yeah, mija, I'm happy." "Good. Mama would be happy too." Marcus kissed her forehead, then climbed into the passenger seat. Louis started the car, and they pulled into Monaco traffic. "Dr. Rousseau's office is about 10 minutes from here," Louis said. "Have you met her before?" "Once, for the initial assessment. Marcus searched for words. "She's very direct, very honest. She told me exactly what Sophia needed and exactly what it would cost. No false hope, no sugarcoating." "Sounds like my kind of doctor," Louis said approvingly, and they drove through Monaco's gleaming streets, past designer boutiques and luxury hotels. Sophia pressed her face to the window, watching the city that had become their home. This strange, wealthy place where they'd been invisible until today. "Marcus," Louis said as they turned onto a tree-lined avenue, "I want you to know something. This morning isn't charity. It's not pity. It's recognition." "Recognition of what?" "Of worth. Yours and Sophia's." Louis glanced at him. "The world tells people like us, people from nothing, that we're worthless unless we're exceptional, unless we become champions or celebrities. But that's a lie. You have worth simply because you exist, because you're human, because you love your daughter and work hard and try to do right." "That doesn't feel like enough," Marcus admitted. "It's more than enough, and it's everything." Louis pulled into a parking lot beside a modern medical building. And once you realize that, once you truly believe it, you stop apologizing for existing. You stop feeling grateful for crumbs. You start demanding what you deserve. He put the car in park and turned to face Marcus fully. "So here's what I want you to remember. You deserve this job. Sophia deserves her therapy. You both deserve housing and security, and the chance to build a life. Not because I'm being nice, because it's right. Because every human deserves those things." Marcus felt tears on his cheeks again. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for reminding me why this work matters," Louis replied. "Now come on. Sophia has a promise to keep." They got out of the car, and Marcus assembled Sophia's wheelchair. As she settled into it, she looked up at the medical building with determination. "I'm going to walk today," she announced. "Not 3 steps, more." "How many?" Marcus asked, smiling through his tears. "As many as Mama would want me to." And with that, Sophia rolled toward the entrance, her father and Louis Hamilton following behind. 3 people from different worlds, brought together by a security checkpoint and a choice to see dignity instead of status. Inside, Dr. Rousseau was waiting, and Sophia was ready to keep her mama's promise. Dr. Isabel Rousseau's office was nothing like the sterile medical facilities Marcus had known in Venezuela. The waiting room had warm yellow walls covered with children's artwork, paintings of butterflies, drawings of families, handprints in every color. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Toys filled a corner basket, and picture books lined low shelves. Sophia's eyes lit up. "Papa, look! It's the book about the turtle who learned to dance." "You remember from before?" Marcus asked. "I remember everything about this place." Sophia's voice held longing. "It smells like hope." The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes and braided hair, looked up from her computer. Her professional smile faltered when she saw Louis, but she recovered quickly. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" "Sophia Rivera," Louis said smoothly. "I called earlier about reinstating her treatment schedule." The receptionist typed rapidly, frowning. "I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing—" She stopped, her eyes widening. Oh, yes, I have the note here." Dr. Rousseau cleared her entire morning. She looked at Marcus with new warmth. "Mr. Rivera, doctor. Rousseau will be so happy to see Sophia again. She asks about her, you know. Wondered why the sessions stopped." Marcus felt shame burn through him. "Financial difficulties." "You don't need to explain," the receptionist said gently. "Many families face interruptions. What matters is Sophia's back now." She smiled at Sophia. "The doctor's in room 3 with another patient. She'll be ready for you in about 10 minutes. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "I'm okay," Marcus said. "Hot chocolate?" Sophia asked hopefully. "Coming right up, sweetheart." As the receptionist disappeared into a back room, Marcus sat heavily in one of the waiting room chairs. Louis sat beside him while Sophia explored the toy basket, pulling out a stuffed elephant she clearly remembered. She kept asking about Sophia. Marcus murmured, "Gee, even though we stopped paying." "Good doctors care about their patients," Louis observed, "money or not." "I was too ashamed to call, too ashamed to explain why we couldn't come back." "Shame is a weapon poverty uses against us," Louis said quietly. "It keeps us from asking for help, keeps us isolated, keeps us believing we deserve less." Before Marcus could respond, a door opened and Dr. Isabel Rousseau emerged. She was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a practical bun, intelligent eyes behind frameless glasses, and the confident posture of someone who'd spent decades helping children achieve the impossible. Her gaze found Sophia immediately, and her entire face transformed. "Sophia!" Dr. Rousseau crossed the waiting room in quick strides, kneeling beside the wheelchair. "Mon ange, I have missed you so much." Sophia threw her arms around the doctor's neck. "I missed you too. Papa says I can come back now. I can come back forever." Dr. Rousseau pulled back, her eyes glistening. She looked at Marcus with a mixture of joy and concern. "Mr. Rivera, it's wonderful to see you both. I was worried when—" "I'm sorry," Marcus interrupted, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry we stopped coming. I tried. I worked every hour I could. But the cost—" "Stop." Dr. Rousseau's voice was firm but not unkind. She stood and faced Marcus fully. "You have nothing to apologize for. Medical care should not bankrupt families. The shame belongs to the system, not to you." "But Sophia lost progress." "Muscles have memory," Dr. Rousseau said. "We will rebuild. Sophia is strong. You are strong. We will find our way back." She finally seemed to notice Louis, who'd been standing quietly to the side. Recognition flickered across her face, but she was too professional to react beyond a slight nod. "And you are?" Lewis Hamilton. I'm helping coordinate Sophia's treatment going forward. He extended his hand. I've heard excellent things about your work, Dr. Rousseau. She shook his hand, her expression curious, but guarded. You're sponsoring Sophia's care? I'm investing in her future, Lewis corrected gently. There's a difference. Dr. Rousseau studied him for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. Very well. Sophia, are you ready to show me what you remember? Yes. Sophia bounced in her wheelchair. I'm going to walk so many steps today. We'll see what your body tells us it's ready for, Dr. Rousseau said with a smile. Mr. Rivera, Mr. Hamilton, you're welcome to observe the session. Follow me, please. They moved down a hallway painted with murals of children playing, running, jumping, dancing. Each one showed a child with some form of disability achieving movement. The art was beautiful and heartbreaking and hopeful all at once. Dr. Rousseau's treatment room was large and bright, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a small garden. Equipment lined the walls: parallel bars, resistance bands, exercise balls, specialized braces. A treatment table sat in the center, and motivational posters covered the walls. Sophia, can you transfer to the table? Dr. Rousseau asked. Marcus moved to help, but Dr. Rousseau held up a hand. Let her try first. Independence is part of therapy. Sophia gripped the wheelchair arms and pushed herself up, and her legs trembled. They'd weakened in the 3 weeks without therapy, but she managed to stand. Marcus's hands hovered nearby, ready to catch her, but Sophia shuffled the 3 steps to the table and hauled herself up with determination. Good, Dr. Rousseau praised. Your upper body strength is excellent. Now, let's see what's happening with these legs. For the next 15 minutes, Dr. Rousseau examined Sophia with gentle efficiency. She tested range of motion, muscle tone, reflexes. She asked Sophia about pain levels, about daily activities, about what movements felt difficult. Marcus watched, his heart in his throat, as the doctor's expression grew more serious. Finally, Dr. Rousseau stepped back. Sophia, can you play with the toys in that basket for a moment? I need to speak with your papa. Am I in trouble? Sophia asked worriedly. Not at all, mon cœur. I just need to give your papa some boring medical information. Sophia nodded and rolled her wheelchair to a basket of therapy toys, colorful blocks and puzzles designed to improve fine motor skills. Dr. Rousseau turned to Marcus and Lewis, her expression grave. Mr. Rivera, I'm going to be direct, as I always am. Please, Marcus said, bracing himself. Sophia has lost significant progress. Her muscle tone has deteriorated. The spasticity in her calves has increased. She's experiencing more frequent cramping. Dr. Rousseau pulled off her glasses, cleaning them, a gesture Marcus recognized as her way of managing difficult conversations. 3 weeks might not sound like much, but for a child like Sophia, consistency is everything. I'm missing this much therapy has set her back considerably. Marcus felt the words like physical blows. How far back? 6 months? Perhaps more. Dr. Rousseau's voice was clinical, but not cold. The 3 steps she achieved. We'll need to rebuild to that point. It's not impossible, but it will take time and intensive work. How intensive? Lewis asked. 3 sessions per week, minimum. 1 hour each, plus daily exercises at home that Mr. Rivera will need to help her with. Dr. Rousseau looked at Marcus. It's a significant commitment. I'll do whatever it takes, Marcus said immediately. I believe you. But Mr. Rivera, I also need to be honest about something else. Dr. Rousseau's expression softened. You look exhausted. When did you last sleep a full night? When did you last eat a proper meal? Marcus opened his mouth to protest, but Dr. Rousseau continued, Sophia's progress depends on you being healthy too. If you collapse from exhaustion, who helps her? If you're too tired to properly support her exercises at home, her therapy becomes less effective. She put a hand on his shoulder. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. I'm managing. You're barely surviving, Dr. Rousseau interrupted gently. And I say this with compassion, not judgment. Single parents of children with disabilities face impossible burdens. The fact that you've made it this far is remarkable. But remarkable isn't sustainable. Louis stepped forward. That's going to change. Marcus has accepted a position with my foundation. He'll have regular hours, proper income, and support. Dr. Rousseau's eyebrows rose. Is that so? It's so, Louis confirmed. And the doctor studied Marcus's face, then nodded slowly. Good. Because Sophia needs her father present, not just physically but emotionally. She needs you rested enough to encourage her, stable enough to celebrate her victories, strong enough to help her through the hard days. How bad are the hard days going to be? Marcus asked quietly. Dr. Rousseau replaced her glasses. I won't lie to you. The next few months will be difficult. Sophia will experience frustration. There will be pain as her muscles relearn movements. She may feel like she's failing when progress is slow. But she will progress? Marcus's voice cracked. She will walk again? Yes. Dr. Rousseau's certainty was like a lifeline. Sophia has the determination and the physical capability. With consistent therapy and support, she will not only walk those 3 steps again, she will surpass them. Marcus's legs went weak. Louis caught his arm, steadying him. How many steps? Marcus whispered. Eventually? That depends on many factors. But Mr. Rivera, Dr. Rousseau's smile was brilliant. With the work ethic I've seen in Sophia, with proper resources and consistency, I believe we could get her walking independently around the house, perhaps even short distances without assistance. The room spun. Marcus couldn't breathe. Elena's last words echoed in his mind. Promise me she'll walk. She'll walk, Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. She's going to walk. She's going to walk, Dr. Rousseau confirmed. Now, let's start today's session and show Sophia what she's capable of. They returned to where Sophia played with therapy blocks, building a tower. She looked up, reading the emotion on her father's face. Papa, are you sad? No, mija, I'm happy. So happy. Did Dr. Rousseau say I can walk? She said you're going to work very hard, and it's going to be difficult. But yes, you're going to walk. Sophia's smile could have lit the entire building. I told you I would. Dr. Rousseau helped Sophia back to the table. All right, mon ange, let's begin. We'll start with stretches to loosen these tight muscles. It might hurt a little. I can handle hurt, Sophia said, with the seriousness only children facing constant pain possess. I'm tough. You are indeed tough. Dr. Rousseau began the stretches, her hands expert and gentle. Marcus watched his daughter wince as tight muscles were coaxed into flexibility. Watched her bite her lip against pain, but refused to cry. He watched her determination burn brighter than her discomfort. Louis stood beside him, silent but present. After several minutes, he spoke quietly. This is why I do what I do. Marcus glanced at him. What do you mean? This. Louis gestured at Sophia. This courage, this refusal to give up. This is what poverty tries to crush, not just in children's bodies, but in their spirits. His voice was thick with emotion. People like Sophia, like you, like my dad. You fight every single day against systems designed to keep you down. And you do it with more grace and strength than most wealthy people show in their entire lives. We don't have a choice, Marcus said. That's exactly it. You don't have a choice, so you fight. But you shouldn't have to fight alone. You shouldn't have to choose between rent and medical care, between feeding your child and treating her condition. Louis turned to face Marcus fully. That's what I'm trying to change. Not just for Sophia, but for every child like her. Every parent like you. Dr. Rousseau had moved on to resistance exercises now, having Sophia push against her hands to strengthen weakened muscles. Sophia's face was flushed with effort, but she pushed harder each time. Good! Dr. Rousseau praised. Again! Push like you're pushing away everything that says you can't do this. Sophia pushed, her small legs trembling with exertion. I'm pushing away the kids who said I'd never walk. Sophia grunted. Push! I'm pushing away being scared. Push! I'm pushing away missing Mama. Sophia's voice broke, but she pushed harder. Marcus started forward, but Louis caught his arm. Let her finish. Doctor? Rousseau's expression was intense, focused. One more, Sophia. Push away doubt. Push toward your future. Sophia gathered every ounce of strength and pushed. Her cry of effort filled the room. Yes! Dr. Rousseau released her hands. Excellent! Sophia, that was beautiful work. Sophia collapsed back on the table, breathing hard, sweating. But she was smiling. I did it, she panted. I did all of them. You did more than all of them. You did them with heart. Dr. Rousseau wiped Sophia's forehead with a cool cloth. Now, rest for 2 minutes. Then we try something special. What special thing? Sophia asked. Dr. Rousseau glanced at Marcus, then smiled mysteriously. We're going to try walking. Sophia's eyes went huge. Really? Today? Today. Just a few steps. But yes, we're going to try. Those 2 minutes felt like hours. Marcus paced the room, unable to sit still. Louis watched Sophia with quiet intensity, and Marcus realized the man was emotionally invested in this moment. Truly invested, not just playing the role of generous sponsor. Finally, Dr. Rousseau said, All right, Sophia, let's do this. She helped Sophia off the table. Sophia's legs shook as her feet touched the floor, taking her full weight for the first time in weeks. Marcus moved to the parallel bars, positioning himself at the end. Dr. Rousseau guided Sophia between the bars, holding her hips to support her. Remember what I taught you. Weight on your heel first, then roll through your foot. Don't lock your knees. Let your body find its rhythm. Sophia gripped the bars with white-knuckled determination. She looked at her father at the end of the bars, maybe 10 feet away. But it might as well have been miles. Papa's waiting, Dr. Rousseau said softly. Show him how strong you are. Sophia took a breath, shifted her weight, lifted her right foot. The step was shaky, uncertain. Her leg trembled with the effort, but her foot moved forward and planted. Marcus's heart stopped. Good, Dr. Rousseau encouraged. Again, left foot now. Sophia's left foot lifted, dragged slightly, but moved forward. 2 steps. You're doing it, Mija, Marcus called, his voice breaking. Keep going. 3rd step, right foot, stronger this time. 4th step, left foot, her grip on the bars steadied. 5th step, 6th step. Papa, Sophia's voice was filled with wonder. Papa, I'm walking. 7th step, 8th step. She was halfway down the bars now, her face a mixture of intense concentration and pure joy. 9th step, 10th step. Marcus could barely see through his tears. That's it, baby. Come to Papa. 11th step. Sophia's breathing was labored, her muscles screaming, but she refused to stop. 12th step. 3 more, Dr. Rousseau said. You can do 3 more. 13th step. 14th step. 1 more. Just 1 more to reach the end where Marcus waited. Sophia's right leg lifted for the 15th step, but her strength gave out. Her knee buckled. Marcus lunged forward, catching her before she fell. He swept her into his arms, holding her tight as she sobbed against his shoulder. Tears of effort, of pain, of triumph. You did it, Marcus whispered into her hair. 15 steps, Mija. 15 steps! I did it, Sophia cried. Papa, I did it! Dr. Rousseau was wiping her own eyes. Sophia, that was extraordinary. Truly extraordinary. Louis stood against the wall, his face wet with tears he didn't try to hide. He pulled out his phone, but not to take pictures, to wipe his eyes and compose himself. Marcus carried Sophia back to her wheelchair, his own legs shaking. He sat with her in his lap, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. Elena, Marcus whispered to the ceiling, to heaven, to wherever his wife's spirit might be. She walked. Our baby walked. Sophia looked up at him, her face shining. Did I make Mama proud? You made Mama so proud, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You made her promise come true. Dr. Rousseau knelt beside them. Sophia, you just did in 1 session what I expected to take 2 weeks. You are remarkable. When can I do it again? Sophia asked eagerly. Tomorrow, if you'd like. And the next day. And the next. Doctor, Rousseau smiled. We have work to do, but Sophia, you've just shown me that you're going to exceed every expectation I have. Louis finally found his voice. That was... I've seen some incredible things in my life, but that was... He shook his head, unable to find words. Dr. Rousseau stood and extended her hand to him. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for making this possible. For whatever role you played in bringing Sophia back to us. It's not me, Louis said, shaking her hand. It's them. Sophia's courage. Marcus's love. I'm just removing barriers. Sometimes removing barriers changes everything, Dr. Rousseau replied. She turned to Marcus. Same time tomorrow? We'll start building on this foundation. We'll be here, Marcus promised. Every session. I swear it. I believe you. Dr. Rousseau touched Sophia's hair gently. Get some rest today, little one. Your muscles will be sore. That's normal. That's your body getting stronger. They left the office 20 minutes later, after Dr. Rousseau explained home exercises and answered Marcus's dozens of questions. In the parking lot, Marcus loaded Sophia into the car, his hands still shaking from adrenaline and emotion. Sophia was exhausted, but glowing. Papa, I walked 15 steps. That's 12 more than before. I know, Mija. I counted every single one. Tomorrow I'll do 20. Tomorrow you'll do whatever Dr. Rousseau says, Marcus corrected gently. This isn't a race. But it is, though, Sophia said with childish wisdom. It's a race to keep Mama's promise. Louis started the car, glancing at them in the rearview mirror. Where to now? Marcus looked at his daughter. At this miracle, child who'd just walked 15 steps on legs that doctors said would never work. He thought about the job offer still waiting to be finalized, about the apartment they hadn't seen yet, about the future that had seemed impossible this morning. Home, Marcus said. Let's go home. But even as he said it, Marcus realized something had shifted. The tiny apartment they'd returned to wasn't really home anymore. It was just a place they'd been surviving. Home would be wherever Sophia could walk, wherever Marcus could work with dignity, wherever they could build something real. and as Louis drove them through Monaco's gleaming streets, Marcus finally let himself believe that home was possible. That promises could be kept. That 15 steps were just the beginning. They drove in comfortable silence, Sophia dozing in the back seat, and exhausted from the therapy session. Marcus watched Monaco pass by the window, the harbor with its yachts, the designer boutiques, the cafes where a single coffee cost what he used to spend on a day's food. But today, the city looked different, less like a fortress keeping him out, and more like a place where he might actually belong. Louis turned onto a street Marcus didn't recognize, heading away from his neighborhood. "This isn't the way to my apartment," Marcus said. "I know. I want to show you something first, if that's okay?" Louis glanced at him. "Sophia's sleeping. It won't take long." Marcus nodded, curious. They drove for another 10 minutes, climbing into the hills above Monaco. The buildings here were newer, cleaner. Trees lined the streets. Children played in small parks. It was still Monaco, still expensive, but it had a different feeling, less ostentatious, more livable. Louis pulled up in front of a modern building, 4 stories tall with balconies overlooking the city. The entrance had wide doors, wheelchair accessible, Marcus noticed immediately. "What is this place?" Marcus asked. "The apartment I mentioned, the one included in your employment package." Louis turned off the engine. "Want to see it?" Marcus looked at Sophia, still sleeping. "We shouldn't wake her." "We won't. I'll crack the windows, lock the doors. We'll be 5 minutes." Louis smiled. "Trust me, you want to see this." They left the car in view and entered the building. The lobby was simple but clean. No marble or chandeliers, just good lighting and comfortable furniture. A directory on the wall listed residents. Marcus noticed several family names, so heard children's voices echoing from somewhere above. "Families live here," Marcus observed. "That was important to me," Louis said, as they entered the elevator. "I didn't want you in some sterile luxury building where Sophia would be the only child. This place has young families, kids for Sophia to play with. A real community." The elevator rose to the 3rd floor. Louis led Marcus down a carpeted hallway to apartment 3B. He pulled out a key, then paused. "Before we go in, I want you to know, this isn't a test. You're not obligated to love it or even like it. If it doesn't feel right, we'll find something else." "Louis, I live in a single room with a broken shower. I'm sure it's—" Louis opened the door, and Marcus's words died. The apartment was filled with light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Monaco and the Mediterranean beyond. The living room was spacious, real furniture, a television, bookshelves, an open kitchen with modern appliances, hardwood floors throughout. 3 bedrooms, Louis said, guiding Marcus through. This would be Sophia's room. The bedroom was perfect. Not too large, not too small. Windows facing east for morning light. Space for a bed, a desk, bookshelves. Marcus could already imagine Sophia's drawings covering the walls. "The bathroom is fully accessible," Louis continued, showing Marcus the wide doorways, grab bars already installed, a walk-in shower with a seat. Sophia can use everything independently as she gets stronger. The 2nd bedroom was slightly smaller, for guests, or an office, or whatever you need. And finally, the master bedroom. Marcus stood in the doorway, unable to enter. A real bedroom, with a real bed, already furnished. Aunt Louis had thought of everything. Windows overlooking the city, space for his few belongings and room to breathe. "I can't," Marcus whispered. "Can't what?" Louis asked gently. "Can't accept this. It's too much. Louis, this apartment must cost—" It's part of your employment package, Lewis interrupted. Marcus, I have coordinators in 5 European cities. They all have housing allowances. This is standard. But nothing. You're going to be traveling for the foundation, meeting with program directors, overseeing security operations. You need a stable home base, a place Sophia can be comfortable and safe while you work. Lewis's tone was matter-of-fact. This isn't charity, it's logistics. Marcus walked slowly through the living room, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood. He stopped at the windows, looking out at the view. And from here, he could see the harbor where he'd sat yesterday morning, contemplating failure. Could see the medical building where Sophia had just walked 15 steps. I've never lived anywhere like this, Marcus said quietly. Neither had I, until racing changed everything for me. Lewis joined him at the window. I remember the first time I stayed in a nice hotel. I was 16, just signed with McLaren's Young Driver program. They put me up in this fancy place, and I couldn't sleep. Felt wrong, like I didn't belong. How did you get past that feeling? My dad told me something. Lewis smiled at the memory. He said, Lewis, the difference between you and the people born into money isn't worth or merit. It's just circumstance. You work as hard as anyone. You deserve comfort as much as anyone. And then he said the part I really needed to hear. Don't apologize for success. Use it to help others succeed too. Marcus turned to face Lewis. Is that what this is? Your success helping me succeed? It's more than that. Lewis's expression grew serious. Marcus, I need to tell you the real reason I came to your apartment this morning. The full truth. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. What do you mean? The story about Thomas. That's all true. He did help me. He did change my life. And I did speak at his funeral. Lewis paused. But there's more to it. Something I didn't tell you in front of Sophia. What? Lewis walked to the couch and sat, gesturing for Marcus to join him. Marcus sat slowly, his heart beginning to pound. After Thomas died, I was devastated, Lewis began. Said he'd been like a second father to me. His family asked me to speak at the funeral, and of course I agreed. It was in a small church in Kent, maybe 50 people there. Thomas wasn't wealthy, didn't have a big estate or fancy things, just a small house and a lot of love. Marcus listened, sensing there was something important coming. At the funeral, Thomas's daughter, Sarah, she pulled me aside, told me something I'd never known. Lewis's voice grew thick. She said that after Thomas helped me that day at the karting track, after he nearly lost his job for breaking protocol, his supervisor asked him why he did it. Why risk his livelihood for some kid he didn't know? What did he say? Thomas told his supervisor, because 10 years ago, someone took a chance on me when I needed it most. And I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to pay it forward, I would. Lewis wiped his eyes. Sarah told me that Thomas had been homeless in his 20s, struggling with addiction. A security supervisor at a different company gave him a job despite his record, trained him, believed in him, saved his life. Marcus felt goosebumps rise on his arms. Thomas spent the rest of his life looking for chances to pay that forward, Lewis continued. He helped other former addicts find work, mentored young security guards, volunteered at homeless shelters, and when he saw a desperate father and his crying son at a karting track, he saw a chance to continue the chain. He saw himself in you, Marcus said quietly. He saw himself in my father, in the desperation, in the love. Lewis looked directly at Marcus. And yesterday was when you stopped me at that VIP entrance, when you stood your ground despite being terrified, despite needing that job desperately. I saw Thomas. I saw my father. I saw the chain continuing. Marcus's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that this isn't about me being generous. It's about honoring a debt that can never truly be repaid, only paid forward." Louis leaned forward intensely. "Thomas saved my career by taking a risk. That risk was only possible because someone took a risk on him. And now I'm taking a risk on you. Not because you're a charity case, but because you're the next link in a chain that's been going on for decades." "But I didn't do anything special," Marcus protested. "I just asked for identification." "You did your job with integrity when it would have been easier not to. You protected an entrance from a drunk fan when you could have just looked away. You treated me like a human being instead of a celebrity." Louis's voice was passionate now. "Marcus, do you know how rare that is? How precious? Most people either grovel or take advantage. You just did your job correctly." Marcus shook his head, overwhelmed. That's just being decent." "Exactly. And decency is radical in a world designed to crush it." Louis stood, pacing now. "The system we live in, it punishes people like you and rewards people like that drunk fan who thought his desires mattered more than rules. It tells you that asking for identification is wrong because the person asking is poor and the person being asked is rich. It's designed to make you feel shame for doing the right thing." "I did feel shame," Marcus admitted. "Yet when DeGraff suspended me, I felt like I'd done something wrong." "But you hadn't. The system was wrong. DeGraff was wrong. The idea that wealth deserves special treatment, that's wrong." Louis sat back down, calmer now. Thomas understood that. He understood that rules exist to protect everyone, not just the powerful. And when he saw my father and me being held to the same standard as everyone else, he didn't see disrespect. He saw respect. Real respect. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing. Finally, he asked, "What happened to the supervisor, the one who gave Thomas his job?" Louis smiled. "Thomas stayed in touch with him for 30 years. When the supervisor retired, Thomas threw him a party. Invited everyone he'd helped over the years, dozens of people, former addicts who were now thriving, young workers he'd mentored, families he'd supported." Louis's smile widened. The supervisor said it was the best day of his life, seeing the ripples of one decision spread so far. "That's what you want," Marcus realized. "You want to see the ripples." "I want to be part of them," Louis corrected. "I want Sophia to grow up and remember that someone helped when her family needed it. And maybe 30 years from now, she'll help someone else. And the chain continues." Marcus stood and walked back to the windows. Below, he could see Monaco spread out like a glittering promise. Somewhere down there, Sophia was sleeping in Louis's car, exhausted from walking 15 steps. 15 steps that were only possible because of a chain of kindness stretching back decades. "What if I break the chain?" Marcus asked quietly. "What if I'm not good enough at the job? And what if I fail?" "Then you'll learn and try again," Louis said simply. "Marcus, the chain doesn't break from failure. It breaks from not trying, from giving up, from choosing comfort over courage." He joined Marcus at the window. "Do you think Thomas never made mistakes? Or my dad? Or that supervisor who hired Thomas? Of course they did. But they kept showing up, kept trying, kept believing in the possibility of good." Marcus thought about Elena, about her last words. "Promise me she'll walk." That promise had seemed impossible so many times. Had seemed like he was breaking it every day he couldn't afford therapy. But Sophia had walked today, 15 steps, and she'd walk more, tomorrow. The promise wasn't broken. It was just taking longer than expected. "I'll take the apartment," Marcus said, "and the job, and I'll try my absolute best not to let you down." "You couldn't let me down," Louis said with certainty. "You've already shown me what I needed to see. Everything else is just details." They stood together at the window, two men from different worlds connected by a security checkpoint and a choice to see humanity instead of status. "Louis," Marcus said after a while, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you saw me yesterday, when I asked for your identification, what did you think in that moment?" Louis was quiet, remembering. Then he smiled. "I thought, finally, someone who doesn't know who I am. Someone who's just doing their job." He paused. "And then, when that drunk fan came at me, and you stepped between us without hesitation, I thought, this man is protecting what he believes matters. He's not doing it for recognition or reward. He's doing it because it's right." "I was terrified," Marcus admitted. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear." Louis turned to face Marcus fully. "You were terrified of losing your job, but you still followed protocol. You were exhausted from working 2 jobs, but you still showed up. You were desperate about Sophia's therapy, but you still maintained your integrity. That's not weakness, Marcus. That's heroism." "I don't feel like a hero." "Heroes never do. That's what makes them heroes." Louis checked his watch. "We should get back to Sophia. She'll wake up soon, and I don't want her worried." They left the apartment, and Marcus took one last look before Louis locked the door. His daughter would have a real bedroom here. He would have a real bed, and they would have space to breathe, to live, to be a family, instead of just survivors. In the elevator, Marcus asked, "When can we move in?" "Whenever you want. It's ready now. I can have movers collect your things from your current place tomorrow if you'd like." "That fast? Why wait?" Louis smiled. "Sophia walked 15 steps today. Let's keep the momentum going." They returned to the car, where Sophia was just waking up. She blinked sleepily, then smiled when she saw her father. "Papa, did I dream about walking?" "No, mija. You really walked. 15 steps." 15. Sophia's eyes went wide, remembering. "I walked 15 steps. And tomorrow you'll walk more," Marcus said, climbing into the back seat beside her. "And the day after that, even more." "Until I can walk to school?" "Until you can walk anywhere you want." Louis started the car, and as they drove back toward Marcus's current apartment, Sophia chattered about her session, reliving every step, every moment of triumph. Marcus listened to his daughter's joy and thought about chains of kindness, about Thomas helping Louis, about Louis helping him, about what Sophia might do someday when she was grown and strong, when she remembered that someone had believed in her when everything seemed impossible. The chain would continue. It had to, because that's what gave suffering meaning, the knowledge that it could be transformed into compassion, that pain could become purpose, that one person's struggle could become another person's salvation. "Louis," Marcus said as they pulled up to his building, "thank you for everything. For seeing us. Thank you for reminding me why I do this work," Louis replied. "Now go pack. Tomorrow's a new beginning." Sophia clapped her hands. "A new beginning? Papa, we're having a new beginning." "Yes, mija," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, we are." And as he carried his daughter up the stairs to their tiny apartment for one of the last times, Marcus finally understood what Louis had been trying to tell him. This wasn't charity. This wasn't even really about him and Sophia. This was about a promise made decades ago by a supervisor to a struggling addict named Thomas. A promise that had rippled through time, touching a boy in a caravan, then a security guard at a karting track, then a race car driver, and finally landing here, in the arms of a father carrying his daughter up crumbling stairs. The both of them marked by loss, but defined by hope. The chain continued. And Marcus Rivera, former construction foreman from Caracas, current security guard, future foundation coordinator, was now a link in something bigger than himself. Something that would outlast him. Something that mattered. He looked up at the water-stained ceiling of his apartment one last time and whispered, "Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for starting this." And somewhere, in whatever place existed beyond this world, Marcus hoped Thomas could hear him. Hoped Elena could hear him too. Their daughter was walking. The promise was being kept. The chain continued. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of apartment 3B, casting golden light across the living room. Sophia's drawings covered one wall now, a gallery of her progress. Pictures of flowers and rainbows. Yes, but also stick figures walking, running, dancing. Each one dated. A visual journal of hope. Marcus stood in the kitchen, making Sophia's favorite snack, sliced apples with peanut butter. His hands moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd finally learned to rest, to breathe, to believe that tomorrow wouldn't bring disaster. 6 months. Half a year since Lewis Hamilton knocked on their door and changed everything. The apartment door opened, and Marcus heard the sound that still made his heart soar every single time. Footsteps. Not the squeak of wheelchair wheels. Footsteps. Sophia walked into the kitchen, using her forearm crutches but walking. 11 steps from the front door to the kitchen. She'd counted them yesterday, proud of knowing exactly how far she could go. "Papa!" You'll never guess what happened at therapy today. Sophia's face was flushed with excitement and exertion. Marcus set down the knife, giving her his full attention. "Tell me everything!" "Dr. Rousseau said I can try the stairs next week." "The stairs, Papa!" Sophia lowered herself carefully onto a kitchen chair, propping her crutches against the table. "She says my legs are strong enough now." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Stairs. 6 months ago, Sophia could barely take 3 steps. Now she was ready for stairs. "That's incredible, Mija. I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me too," Sophia said matter-of-factly, reaching for an apple slice. "Dr. Rousseau says I work harder than anyone she's ever treated. She says I have, what was the word? Tenacity." "You definitely have tenacity." Marcus smiled, sitting across from her. How was school?" Sophia's expression shifted to something more complex. Not quite sad, but thoughtful. "Mathieu asked me why I walk funny." Marcus's protective instincts flared immediately. "What did you tell him?" "I told him my brain and my legs don't always talk to each other right, so I have to work extra hard to walk, and that my crutches help me be independent." Sophia ate another apple slice. "He said his grandpa has crutches too after his accident, so we talked about that." "And how did that make you feel?" "Normal," Sophia said simply. "Like having crutches is just another thing about me. Like having brown eyes or being good at drawing." She looked at her father with the wisdom of a child who'd faced too much too young. "It's okay that I'm different, Papa. Different isn't bad." Marcus blinked back tears. 6 months ago, Sophia had been isolated, rarely leaving their single room. Now she went to school, had friends, understood herself with remarkable clarity. "You're right," he said. "Different isn't bad. Different is just different." "That's what Mama would say, right?" Sophia asked. That's exactly what Mama would say. His phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Louis. Flight lands at 7 p.m. Dinner at 8? I want to hear all about Sophia's progress. Marcus typed back, Absolutely. Sophia has big news about stairs. 3 dots appeared. Then, Can't wait to hear it. See you tonight. 6 months, and Louis had become part of their lives in a way Marcus never expected. Not as a distant benefactor, but as a friend. Someone who texted to check on Sophia's therapy, who called after tough days to offer encouragement, who showed up at her school performances and cheered louder than anyone. The foundation job had been challenging. Marcus wouldn't pretend otherwise. The first month, he'd felt completely overwhelmed, learning new systems, managing teams across different cities, coordinating security for programs he barely understood. He'd made mistakes, sent emails to wrong people, mixed up schedules, forgot important details. But Louis's team had been patient, had trained him, supported him, helped him grow. And slowly, Marcus discovered something surprising. He was good at this work. Really good. His experience managing construction crews translated perfectly to coordinating security teams. His understanding of poverty gave him insights that wealthy program directors lacked. His integrity earned him respect from everyone he worked with. Last month, the Foundation's director in Paris had called him indispensable. Marcus had to look up the word later, then cried in his bedroom when he understood what it meant. "Papa, you're making your thinking face," Sophia observed. "Just remembering how far we've come." "We've come very far," Sophia agreed. "Remember our old apartment? With the broken shower and the weird smell?" "I remember. This place is much better. I have my own room, with a real desk, and you don't have to sleep on the floor anymore." Sophia's joy was infectious. "And Mrs. Chen lives in the building next door, so she still visits all the time." Mrs. Chen had been delighted when they moved. Her own building was just 2 blocks away, and she'd become even more involved in Sophia's life. Babysitting when Marcus traveled for work, teaching Sophia to bake cookies, telling her stories about her own childhood in Taiwan. "Are you excited about Louis coming for dinner?" Marcus asked. "Yes, I want to show him my progress report from school. Madame Laurent wrote that I'm a dedicated student with a bright future." Sophia beamed with pride. "And I drew him a picture. Want to see?" She retrieved her backpack and pulled out a piece of construction paper. The drawing showed 3 stick figures, a tall one labeled Louis, a medium one labeled Papa, and a small one with crutches labeled Me. They were holding hands, standing in front of a building with a sign that read, "Foundation." "It's us," Sophia explained unnecessarily, "working together to help kids." Marcus studied the drawing, his heart full. "He's going to love it." "I know." Sophia's confidence was beautiful. "Louis always loves my drawings. He says, I'm going to be a famous artist someday." "Maybe you will be. Or maybe I'll be a physical therapist, like Dr. Rousseau. Help other kids learn to walk." Sophia tilted her head thoughtfully. "Or maybe both. Can you be both?" "You can be anything you want, Mija." The afternoon passed in comfortable routine. Sophia did her homework at the kitchen table, while Marcus prepared dinner, chicken with vegetables and rice, one of Louis's favorites. He'd learned to cook properly over the past 6 months, finding joy in creating meals that nourished rather than just filled stomachs. At 7:45 p.m., the doorbell rang. Sophia jumped up, grabbing her crutches. "I'll get it." She walked to the door, 14 steps from the kitchen, and opened it to reveal Louis, carrying a bag from the bakery down the street. "Sophia," Louis greeted her warmly, kneeling so they were eye level. "Look at you, walking to the door by yourself." I walk everywhere now, Sophia said proudly. Well, everywhere in the apartment. Outside, I still use my wheelchair for long distances, but Dr. Rousseau says that's smart, not weak. Energy management, she calls it. Dr. Rousseau is absolutely right. Louis stood, hugging Marcus. Something smells amazing. Just chicken and vegetables. Nothing fancy. Everything you make is fancy to someone who lives on airplane food and hotel restaurants. Louis set the bakery bag on the counter. Chocolate croissants for dessert. Don't tell Sophia's dentist. They ate dinner together, the conversation flowing easily. Louis told them about his recent race in Singapore, the heat, the challenging track, the satisfaction of a podium finish. Sophia told Louis about her school friends, her therapy progress, her dreams of climbing stairs. Marcus mostly listened, watching these two people he loved connect. Louis asked Sophia real questions, not the patronizing kind adults sometimes asked children, but genuine inquiries about her thoughts and feelings. And Sophia responded with equal seriousness, treating Louis like the friend he'd become. After dinner, while Sophia showed Louis her school progress report, Marcus cleaned up the kitchen. Through the doorway, he could hear Louis praising Sophia's grades, asking about her favorite subjects, encouraging her love of art. "Marcus," Louis called, "can you join us? I have something I want to discuss with both of you." Marcus dried his hands and sat on the couch. Sophia nestled between them, her crutches propped nearby. Louis pulled out his phone, opening a video. "I want to show you something. The foundation made this for our annual fundraiser next month." He pressed play. The video opened with soft music and images of children. Kids from rough neighborhoods, kids with disabilities, kids who looked like they came from nothing but carried everything in their eyes. Then, Marcus's face appeared on screen. His voice, recorded during an interview he'd done last month. "6 months ago, I was working 2 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. My daughter needed medical therapy we couldn't afford. I felt like I was failing her every single day. But then, someone saw past my circumstances to my potential. Someone believed that dignity and opportunity aren't luxuries. They're rights." The video cut to images of Sophia in physical therapy, and then other children in foundation programs, learning to read, playing sports, discovering talents they didn't know they had. Marcus's voice continued. "The foundation doesn't give charity. It gives chances. It removes barriers. It says, your worth isn't determined by your bank account or your zip code or your disability. Your worth is inherent, and we're going to help you realize your potential." The video showed Marcus at work now, coordinating security teams, talking with program directors, his confidence visible in every gesture. "I'm not special," Video Marcus said. "I'm just a father who wanted better for his daughter. But I was given an opportunity, and that opportunity changed everything. Now I get to help create opportunities for others. That's not charity. That's justice." The video ended with images of all the children the foundation served, their faces bright with hope. Text appeared. "Everyone deserves a chance. Help us give it to them." Sophia was crying. So was Marcus. Even Louis's eyes were wet. "That video," Marcus whispered. "When did you—" "Last month. You did the interview for our annual report, remember? The media team thought your story would resonate." Louis paused. "It's already raised over 3 million euros in donations." Marcus stared at him. 3 million? People connect with authenticity, with real stories about real change. Louis smiled. "Marcus, you're not just working for the foundation anymore. You've become the face of what we're trying to accomplish." "But I'm not. I didn't—" Marcus couldn't form complete sentences. You lived it, Lewis said simply. That's more powerful than any celebrity endorsement or corporate sponsorship. You're proof that the work we do matters, that lives actually change. Sophia wiped her eyes. Papa, you're famous. I'm not famous, Mija. You're famous to the people who matter, Lewis corrected. The parents watching that video who see themselves in you. The kids who see Sophia learning to walk and think, maybe I can overcome my challenges too. That's the fame that matters. Marcus shook his head, overwhelmed. I just talked about our experience. I didn't think. That's exactly why it works, Lewis interrupted gently. You weren't performing. You were sharing truth. And truth changes people. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it settling over them. Then Sophia asked, Lewis, can I tell you something? Always. I used to think Mama's promise was just about walking. Like, if I could walk, then everything would be okay, and Mama would be proud. Sophia's voice was thoughtful, mature beyond her years. But now I think the promise was bigger. It wasn't just about my legs. It was about having a life, about being able to do things and learn things and help people. Lewis leaned forward, giving her his complete attention. What made you realize that? Because Papa and I are helping other kids now, through the foundation, through your video. Sophia looked at her father. We're keeping Mama's promise for other people's kids too. Marcus pulled his daughter close, kissing the top of her head. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, and you just finally noticed. They all laughed, the sound filling the apartment that had become a home, the space that had transformed from survival to living. Later, after Sophia went to bed, Marcus and Lewis stood on the balcony overlooking Monaco. The city lights sparkled below them, beautiful in a way Marcus could finally appreciate now that he wasn't drowning. She's remarkable, Lewis said quietly. Sophia, she's going to change the world someday. She already has, Marcus replied. She changed mine. And now she's helping change others. Lewis sipped his coffee. Marcus, I want to ask you something. No pressure, but I want you to think about it. Okay. Next month, at the fundraiser, we're having several speakers, people who've benefited from the Foundation's work. I'd like you to speak, and to tell your story in person to the donors and supporters. Marcus's stomach dropped. Lewis, I can't. I'm not a public speaker. I barely finished high school. You don't need a degree to tell the truth, and your truth is what people need to hear. Lewis turned to face him. I'm not asking you to give a polished speech or pretend to be something you're not. I'm asking you to stand on a stage and share what you shared in that video. Raw, honest, real. What if I mess up? What if I forget what to say? Then you'll pause, remember, and continue. Marcus, you've survived things that would break most people. You've rebuilt your life from nothing. You've watched your daughter learn to walk through sheer determination and your support. Lewis's voice was passionate now. Standing on a stage and talking for 10 minutes? And that's the easy part. Marcus was quiet, fear and possibility warring inside him. Think about it, Lewis said. You don't have to decide tonight, but Marcus, your voice matters. The parents struggling like you were, they need to hear from someone who understands, who's been there, who survived and thrived. I'm still figuring out the thriving part, Marcus admitted. That's what makes you perfect for this. You're not selling a fantasy. You're living the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of recovery and growth. Lewis smiled. That's what people need, not perfection. Hope. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city that had once seemed so cold now feel almost warm. "I'll think about it," Marcus finally said. "That's all I ask." Inside, through the balcony door, they could see Sophia's bedroom. A nightlight shaped like a star glowed softly. On her bedside table sat a photo of Elena, young, beautiful, full of life, holding newborn Sophia. "She would be so proud," Louis said, following Marcus's gaze. "Elena?" "Both of them. Elena for what Sophia's overcome, Sophia for what you've become." Louis paused. "And I think they'd both be proud of what you're building together. The legacy you're creating." Marcus thought about chains of kindness, about Thomas helping Louis, about Louis helping him, about the video that had raised €3 million, about children across Europe getting chances they wouldn't have had otherwise. The chain continued, and it was stronger than ever. "Okay," Marcus said suddenly. "Okay, what?" "I'll speak at the fundraiser. I'll tell our story." He looked at Louis. "Because you're right, and other parents need to know it gets better. That help exists, that their worth isn't determined by their circumstances." Louis smiled, wide and genuine. "Thank you. Truly." "No, Louis, thank you for everything, for seeing us, for believing in us, for—" Marcus's voice broke. "For being the person Thomas taught you to be." They embraced, two men from different worlds who'd found common ground in shared values and mutual respect. When Louis finally left around midnight, Marcus checked on Sophia one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her crutches propped against the wall, her legs resting comfortably under blankets that no longer carried the weight of worry. Marcus kissed her forehead gently. "We did it, Mija. We're keeping Mama's promise, and we're helping keep it for other families too." Sophia stirred slightly, and murmuring in her sleep, "Love you, Papa. Love you too, baby. To the moon and back." Marcus returned to his own bedroom, a real bedroom with a real bed, and lay down, his body tired, but his spirit light. 6 months, half a year of transformation. But also, just the beginning. Because tomorrow, Sophia would work on stairs. Next month, Marcus would speak at a fundraiser. Next year, who knew what was possible? The chain continued. The promise was being kept. And Marcus Rivera, once a man drowning in poverty and fear, now slept peacefully, knowing that tomorrow would bring challenges, but also support. Struggles, but also victories. Work, but also purpose. He was no longer alone. Sophia was no longer limited by circumstances. They were part of something bigger now, something that would outlast them both, something that mattered. And as Marcus drifted off to sleep, he thought about Elena one last time. "I kept my promise, mi amor," he whispered. "Our daughter is walking, and we're helping other children walk too. The chain continues. Your love continues. Everything continues." Somewhere, he hoped she could hear him. Hoped she could see what her sacrifice had created. Hoped she knew that her death had not been in vain. That her daughter was thriving. That her husband was healing. That the promise she'd made him swear, get her somewhere she can walk, had been kept in ways neither of them could have imagined. The water stains on the ceiling were gone now, replaced by smooth white paint and the promise of tomorrow. And Marcus Rivera, father and foundation coordinator and keeper of promises, finally slept without nightmares. Because the worst was behind them, and the best was yet to come. So that's the incredible story of Marcus, Sophia, and Louis Hamilton, a story that proves kindness can change lives forever. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching this video from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. We love hearing from our viewers around the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread more stories of kindness and hope to people everywhere who need to hear them. And don't click away yet. There's another amazing story appearing on your screen right now that you absolutely need to watch. Click on it and keep the inspiration going. Thank you for being here, and remember, sometimes the smallest act of kindness creates the biggest ripples. See you in the next video.